and was only suitable for people aged 18 or over, will almost certainly have an adult theme, and might well contain sex or violence, which are quite graphic. It may also contain explicit language, including sexual swear words. Thanks for listening.
But here's what his revelation comes to him. He's kind of got all this stuff, like touching, wiping, mourning of the animals.
Not wiping, whipping.
Yeah. Also not touching.
I am dyslexic. I hope I'm not having like a stroke.
Do it live! Fuck it! Do it live!
And an atheist almost always become supporters of eugenics and abortion.
A swine is hungry for nuts.
Jesus hates him too.
Satan is real.
Being a Satanist is an open declaration of revolt against counterproductive received wisdom and mindless rogue tradition.
Decapitate her head off.
We're done. You're done.
Obama!
Welcome to the Godless Rebelution. This is episode 128. Today is Wednesday, October 19th. We are going to be covering the third and final presidential debate at UNLV, moderated by Fox News correspondent Chris Wallace. I still don't have any catchy anything in the beginning of the show. Whoa. Matt's here. Ryan's here. Grant's
I feel a little bit bad about shitting on your outro last time. I had no idea it was coming.
Fine. It was fine, man. That's cool.
He thought for
no, dude, it sounded dorky. That's fine.
No, what happened was I wasn't even expecting anything like that. You said it, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Well, that was uncomfortable.
Time to jump in, and then I saw your face after I said it, and I'm like, oh god, that's gonna haunt me all week.
And it did.
It sure did.
You're fine. No, I need to come up with something for the beginning and the end. Maybe I'll do that sometime.
Yeah, why don't you guys let us know
sometime
what we should say?
You want to hear Dan sing?
No.
See, now you really want to hear Dan sing.
This is Grant Larimer, A.K.A. Purple Dragon, in studio today.
Hi.
Yay.
I'm back.
Grant's a political wonk.
I'm amateur wonk.
So
amateur wonk.
In so much I don't get paid a dime. I'm interested in it.
So
it's fun.
But still wearing purple.
Still wearing purple.
We have just
now I have to. You know?
Yeah.
Because every time you come on, because
it's definitely
you are the purple dragon.
Not the worst nickname.
Well, no, it's definitely not. And although this is audio, so no one really knows or cares, but I don't know.
I want to take a picture of that shit.
Yeah.
So we have a little bit of housekeeping, and then Matt's got something prepared, and then we'll jump into the debate. And it's
come on, the election's already over.
Could be the election.
It's already over. I mean,
yeah, so the debate is slated for 2 hours. So I figure we'll just kind of let it roll in the background unless there's something big we start talking about for a bit, but it's going to be a long one. So
yeah, strap
in, people. First off, we have an email that we received from listener Dave Morris. We got this, I don't know, a couple weeks ago at least.
Yeah.
And I think we mentioned it even in the previous episode or two.
We just forgot to read it because we ran out of time.
Yes. And it was very long, so I wanted to get this out of the way real quick before we get on to the debate. But Dave sent us an email. He says, "Hi, Dan. Hope the mouth recovers soon. Thank you very much. It is feeling much better. I can actually eat all the foods again now. The roof of my mouth is still a bit rough and raw and sore, but it's not bleeding all the time. It's not in constant pain, so
you're back to eating ghost peppers.
It's a plus. I can floss all of my teeth now. It's awesome." Dave continues and says, "As I'm still a bit behind on my pods, I have a few comments on previous episodes. Also, I guess you'll have time on your hands. First, and I hope this doesn't piss off whoever designed the logo, a couple of pics of me and my students at the university, and my family in a park here in Hohhot. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Inner Mongolia province of Donald Catman Farts. An English translation, favorite country, China. I think it's pronounced China.
China.
Notice the t-shirt. P.S. When I'm back in the UK sometime, I'll send a donation for copyright violation.
Oh, jeez.
I just don't trust internet banking here.
Sure.
Oh, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
And the shirt looks awesome, by the way.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool that you took the initiative and made a shirt and are wearing it around. That's fucking badass. And then he says, as for the pods, you were musing about reaction to the death of the right-wing woman. Can't remember her name. I'm sure that was Phyllis Schlafly.
Yes.
and some people's reluctance to celebrate the passing of evil. You are 100% right to speak out loud and proud that you are glad people like that no longer defile this planet.
Mm-hmm.
When Thatcher died, for me and many of my friends, it was a day of nothing but joy. In the 1980s, I was a coal miner, and together with many of my friends in 1984 to 85, we were destroyed and ground into the ground by Thatcher's police state. Her politics spawned Reagan, illegal military activity, torture squads, as well as attacks on workers and their rights.
Mm-hmm.
Damn right when she died, we had a party. I was only sad that working in China, I couldn't be in London with my mates giving the finger to her coffin as it passed. If you want to really know how we felt, listen to Elvis Costello's Tramp Down the Dirt, a song he wrote before she died. And I did listen to that, and it's very good. He says, also, in another section, you were giving an analogy between liking sports teams and the way religions ignore the evil their own religion acts. Perhaps to strengthen that analogy is the way British football fans acted toward black players, particularly when they first started to come to prominence in the 1970s and 80s. As an older atheist, I was a regular football goer in those years, and my team, Coventry City, and by football, he means soccer.
I was about to ask that.
Anyway, his team was Coventry City. Parenthetically, he says they should be the Godless Rebelution's official English team. Had one of the first black stars, a great player called Cyril Regis. In those days, racism was far more open than by the 1990s. What was that?
I don't know.
Anybody hear a little squeak?
I sure did.
Our Halloween episode is until next week.
Sounded like Ozzy opening Crazy Train.
That was interesting.
Okay.
He says that racism was far more open than by the 1990s. It's still there, but more hidden, and a regular occurrence was for fans to throw bananas onto the pitch at opposition black players.
Oh, geez.
That's fucked up.
When you pointed out that Regis also happened to be black, they always replied that Cyril was our derogatory word, and he was different. Whilst the minority of us who didn't have that prejudice wouldn't mutter, we didn't have the bottle at that time to face the racist thugs down, much to our shame. That's how I see religion. The core religionists do evil acts, but they can be forgiven as they are ours. However, when another religion does it, as Fluffy says, that's Pope Fluffy, it is the act of the devil. Thank you very much for the message, Dave.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I agree.
And I have absolutely no problem making Coventry City the official soccer team of this podcast, since none of us know anything about that team or the players on it.
Or how to play. Or,
I used to
you run around a lot and kick the thing.
It's a really big field where
Can't
you
touch
have,
it with your hands.
You have a ball that you can hit with your head and your feet.
I'm a big
your
fan
legs
and watcher of football.
No part of
soccer.
your arms, just your torso.
Yeah.
And
how's Coventry City?
I watch American soccer.
Oh.
You got to get up way too fucking early in the morning to watch European soccer.
I pretty much randomly choose teams to watch myself, just because I don't watch much of any of the sports ball. Whenever I'm in a group of people and they're watching a game, I'll just randomly select one. Usually it's the opposite of what everyone else in the room, just so I can be,
the antagonist.
I can be the antagonist and piss them all off.
What I should tell Mr. Morris is that I routinely watch and follow football and have never heard of Coventry City. So clearly that's soccer.
Yeah.
Yes, true. So thank you very much for the message, Dave. Matt had something that he brought.
Yes, I do.
That you said should give us some insight into as we move into the debate this evening.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to keep in mind. It's a little piece written by a man named Jeff Hancock, who's a professor at Stanford University, and he studies deception and technology. The views expressed during this article are his. So, Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton are seen as equally trustworthy by the public. And yet Trump makes false statements almost 4 times as often as Clinton. How's this possible? I study deception and trust, and am frequently asked this question. Given that fact checkers rate Trump's statements as entirely false, 25 or 52% of the time, compared to Clinton's 12, entirely false 52% of the time.
Not just partially false. You know, there's a little bit of truth. Entirely false.
Yeah. There are several possible explanations. One is that we like and trust people who look like we do. This allows us to discount or ignore things that we otherwise might not. That could explain why so many white men support Trump despite his persistent falsehoods. The two candidates also have distinctly different communication styles. Trump speaks in a direct manner with simple words and sentences, a style that comes across as authentic and trustworthy. Clinton speaks more cautiously, qualifying her statements and using more complex sentences, a style that leads people to believe she's hiding something even if she isn't. But neither of these explanations fully account for why Trump's more frequent lies don't affect his trustworthiness more than it does. One explanation is that he isn't really about lying, but about bullshit. In his book On Bullshit, Harry Frankfurt distinguished between the two by noting that to lie, one has to purposely hide the truth from others. A bullshit artist isn't concerned with the truth at all, but instead makes things up to suit his purpose. He doesn't care if the things he says describe reality accurately. When the fisherman says that the fish he caught was this big with his hands wide apart, the actual size of the fish isn't what's important. It's the entertainment of the listeners. The idea that Trump's false statements are bullshit can help explain why his supporters don't care that fact checkers say he's lying. For example, Trump has said that he'll build a wall across America and make Mexico pay. If that's bullshit, Trump doesn't need to care about the feasibility or what the true cost might be, and neither do his supporters. What's important is the message of stopping illegal immigration. Or when Trump makes false claims about the trade deficit or the unemployment rate, the reality is less important than his supporters' sense that the economy is leaving them behind. When Trump says that crime is up and you'll get shot walking in urban centers, the reality is less important than the message of law and order. Frankfurt emphasizes that people bullshit when they speak about topics in which they are not well versed or when the facts don't line up with the overall message. Trump has been upfront about his outsider status and his lack of debate prep and knowledge on government policy. The fact that he responds to complex topics with bullshit is perhaps not surprising. This argument maps nicely onto a recent piece in The Atlantic about Trump and his supporters versus the media. The press takes him literally but not seriously. His supporters take him seriously but not literally. But
yeah, I heard that earlier. I thought that was perfect.
That's exactly right, yeah. But this is not an argument to explain away the seriousness of Trump's false statements. On the contrary, the bullshit artist may or may not know the truth, but doesn't care about it either way. As Frankfurt writes, bullshit is a greater enemy of truth than lies are. At least with the liar, you can present evidence to the contrary. The bullshitter doesn't even care about facts. Now, as the debate around Trump's 2005 comments about groping women swirls, the issue...
Their swirls?
About groping their swirls. The issue is extremely important. If he is perceived as a bullshitter engaging in harmless locker room banter, will the voters forgive his statements? The fact that many of his supporters are still on board seems to support this. And here's an amazing coincidence. A recent book cataloged all of the synonyms for bullshit, and one of the oldest dates back to the 1400s. It originally referred to trickery and scamming. Although its meaning has evolved to include general nonsense and insignificance, that word is trumpery.
Ooh, I knew it was going to go
I heard
there.
about trumpery.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
There's just... I saw a clip earlier today of somebody talking about everything that he does is just sheer projection.
Yeah, the Olbermann clip.
Yes, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Keith Olbermann.
And Taylor was talking about that last week.
Yeah, well, and Taylor is actually the one who sent me... He actually posted it to the Godless Rebelution's page, and then I shared it out on the page again. But it's Keith Olbermann talking about Donald Trump telegraphs all of his weaknesses and everything that is wrong with him by projecting it on somebody else.
Well, and Olbermann didn't come up with that. That was actually the ghostwriter of Art of the Deal. Mm-hmm. That Olbermann got that from.
Yeah.
And then he highlighted that by showing a whole bunch of his tweets, and the ghostwriter, I forget his name, said that whenever you read one of his tweets, and the more angry the tweet is, think about it from the perspective that Trump's actually talking about himself.
Yeah.
And so when he freaks out about, Hillary's the most corrupt politician and she should be in jail, he's really talking about himself. And so you should read any one of his tweets or any one of his quotes from that perspective. That's what the ghostwriter says.
That he's actually talking about himself. Yeah. The part of Olbermann's segment said something like, it reads like somebody talking to himself in a mirror.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So we will now move on to the debate. It may be a very long one. Real quick, I wanted to say that we also received an email from listener Jesse James. And Jesse, I'm sorry, I had sent you a reply saying that we would address that in this episode, but this is going to be a very long one, and I didn't want to cheapen or shorten our answer in addressing your question or the question that you sent in to us. So we will actually address that on the next episode. So you may feel a little slighted that we didn't do it in this one because I said that we would, but we will address it in the next one, and we will give it much more attention than we would have in this one. I'm sorry. We've also had a couple more 5-star ratings on iTunes, so thank you very much for the people that have done that. If you'd like us to read your review on the air during the show, then
we'll do it next week, but not really.
Be sure that besides just giving a 5-star rating, that you type out a review, and we'd be happy to read those on the air. So, without any further ado, let's start the debate.
They only read the 5 stars, so if you the 1-star reviews, don't.
No.
We give each other 1-star reviews every week, so.
Please stand by. The Godless Revolution will continue in a moment.
This is Matt Dillahunty, and you're listening to the Godless Rebelution.
If you have questions, comments, concerns, compliments, corrections, or concepts for content, contact the show via email at godlessrebelution@gmail.com, by text or voicemail at 330-81-REBEL, or Twitter the twatter at TGI Podcast. Thanks, bitches.
Has In God We Trust invaded your town? Are you tired of government officials who want to plaster In God We Trust on taxpayer-owned property? Are you afraid because your local sheriff placed an In God We Trust decal on the patrol cars? We are here to help. The original motto project is for those who feel the separation of church and state is an important issue and should be honored regardless of your belief or lack thereof. Theists, non-theists, and all free thinkers are welcome. We need your support to show politicians that diversity exists within our nation, and their promotion of a monotheistic religion and push for theocracy will not be tolerated. Stand up and be heard. Join us at originalmotto.us.
Rejoining the Godless Rebelution podcast now.
Why do you think America is a Christian nation?
That was the creator of everything.
Judeo-Christian belief to be the foundation of our lives.
And I believe God isn't done with America.
And that's the Lord we know.
Good evening from the Thomas and Mack Center at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. I'm Chris Wallace of Fox News.
Hi, Chris.
And I welcome you to the third and final of the 2016 presidential debates between Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and Donald J. Trump. This debate is sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates.
I'm just glad this is the third and final debate.
The Commission has designed the format.
Every parent has that fucked up kid.
15-minute segments with 2-minute answers to the first question, then open discussion for the rest of each segment. Both campaigns have agreed to those rules.
Open discussion, does that mean they're just going to be constantly interrupting each other?
Probably, yeah. That's what it sounds like.
None of those questions has been shared with the commission or the
Every
two
debate
candidates.
has the same set of
The
rules.
audience
I
here
don't
in the
know
hall
why
has promised to
aside
remain
from the town hall
cheers,
debates.
boos,
I don't know why.
other
They change them up a little bit, like it's, you know, 2-minute opening, 2 minute to respond, and then like a minute response back and forth.
Or a 30-second rebuttal.
The Democratic nominee for president, Secretary Clinton, and the Republican nominee for president, Mr. Trump.
Remember early on when it was always just like Rubio and Cruz were like, he said my name. I don't know. Don't I get 30 seconds? Don't I get 30 seconds to respond? He said my name.
He said my name. Oh, that whole Republican thing. If they say your name, then you get 30 seconds. That was fucking bullshit.
They do not shake hands at all. They don't even walk past each other's podium.
They didn't even make eye contact.
Barely acknowledge
the Supreme
Even
Court.
a boxing match.
Hold on, Supreme Court.
You both talked briefly about the court in the last debate, but I want to drill down on this because the next president will almost certainly have at least one appointment and likely or possibly 2 or 3 appointments, which means that you will, in effect, determine the balance of the court for what could be the next quarter century. First of all, where do you want to see the court take the country? And secondly, what's your view on how the Constitution should be interpreted?
Oh, God.
Do the founders' words
Trump's
mean what they say, or is it a living document to be applied flexibly according to changing circumstances? In this segment,
it's a living
Secretary
document.
Clinton,
It has to
first.
be.
You have 2 minutes.
Not according to Scalia.
I know. He was totally fucking wrong about that.
Yeah, he was.
You know, I think when we talk about the Supreme Court, it really raises the central issue in this election. Namely, what kind of country are we going to be? What kind of opportunities will we provide for our citizens? What kind of rights will Americans have? And I feel strongly that the Supreme Court needs to stand on the side of the American people, not on the side of the powerful corporations and the wealthy. For me, that means that we need a Supreme Court that will stand up on behalf of women's rights, on behalf of the rights of the LGBT community, that will stand up and say no to Citizens United, a decision that has undermined the election system in our country because of the way it permits dark, unaccountable money to come into our electoral system. I have major disagreements with my opponent about these issues and others that will be before the Supreme Court.
He's fucking scowling
But
all
I
the time.
feel that at this point in our country's history,
is he a Marvel villain yet?
It is important that we not reverse marriage equality, that we not reverse Roe v. Wade, that we stand up against Citizens United, we stand up for the rights of people in the workplace, that we stand up and basically say the Supreme Court should represent all of us. That's how I see the court, and the kind of people that I would be looking to nominate to the court would be in the great tradition of standing up to the powerful, standing up on behalf of our rights as Americans. And I look forward to having that opportunity. I would hope that the Senate would do its job and confirm the nominee that President Obama has sent to them. Mm-hmm. That's the way the Constitution fundamentally should operate. Yep. The president nominates, and then the Senate advises and consents or not, but they go forward with the process.
She didn't really answer the originalist argument, other than by hinting about all these other things. It's clear that she thinks it should be modernized.
Basically. And I'm not surprised that she ducked that one.
It's great to be with you. And
Trump will answer it
the Supreme
directly.
Court, it's what it's all about. Our country
it's what it's all about.
So it just
this election is about SCOTUS.
Right
that's
justice.
the only reason
something
Trump
happened recently
where
is
SCOTUS.
Justice Ginsburg.
You think his supporters understand that?
Inappropriate.
I think his intelligent
me
ones
and toward a tremendous number of people, many millions of people that I represent.
He has a mix of supporters. He has some dumbass redneck,
and apologize. She did,
bigoted,
but these
racist.
That should never,
but he
ever
has
have
some
been made.
intelligent supporters who realize it's not about Trump, it's about SCOTUS. And when you lose SCOTUS, you lose the Second Amendment,
which is under absolute siege. I believe if my opponent should win this race, which I truly don't think will happen, we will have
That's
a
how
Second
deluded
Amendment,
he is.
which will be a very, very small replica of what it is right now. But I feel that it's absolutely important that we uphold because of the fact that it is under such trauma. I feel that the justices that I am going to appoint, and I've named 20 of them, the justices that I'm going to appoint will be pro-life. They will have a conservative bent. They will be protecting the Second Amendment. They are great scholars in all cases, and they're people of tremendous respect. They will interpret the Constitution the way the founders wanted it interpreted.
That doesn't
And I
answer the
believe
fucking
that's
question.
Very, very important. I don't think we should have justices appointed that decide what they want to hear. It's all about the Constitution and so important, the Constitution, the way it was meant to be.
How
is that? What the fuck are you?
Will appoint.
He's just repeating himself.
Thank you. We now have about 10 minutes for
I think he's indirectly answering. He's saying he is an originalist.
An originalist.
He just didn't. He said it inartfully, but I think he is saying he's an originalist.
Well, because he loves Scalia, and he has said that he would appoint justices that were in the mold of Scalia.
He just said it very inartfully, but I think he was answering the question to the degree that he is an originalist and
to
not
the degree that he's capable.
I mean, I disagree with everything he said, but he answered it much more directly than Hillary did.
He did, and I'm not surprised Hillary ducked that question because it's a no-win question for her.
But he also doesn't understand how an amendment to the Constitution is made. The Supreme Court doesn't do it. It's a supermajority that needs to vote on it. So it's like you have no say.
Well, and he thinks the president can just throw away an amendment.
They can.
He's so pander. He lives in China and eats bamboo all day. Everything he says is just purely is just Republican talking points.
Yeah,
but it did sound like for a second there he wanted to say something else.
China. Sorry.
But then he went back and repeated what he had already said. Yeah. Like he forgot his train of thought.
And he says that he's named 20 people that he would nominate for SCOTUS. There's not 20 fucking people that can be on the Supreme Court. There are going to be perhaps 3 positions open. There's 1 currently.
Yeah.
Maybe another 2 more within the next 4 to 8 years. Why the fuck does he have this list of 20, and why can't he name even like the top 3?
Because they're very scholarly.
He's got a number in his head. Somebody gave him a fucking number. You've provided 20. Just say 20. You don't have to remember the names. Just say 20. Yeah. Stay away from the names. 20. 20 is the answer. You've nominated or you've mentioned 20 people.
Go to the website to find out who they are.
Then you don't have to remember facts and names and all of that stuff that gets you so easily confused. You fuckwit.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure Hillary is a living document. More than she is an originalist, but
you would have to be in order
to gets herself into trouble.
Yeah, well, in order to support the positions that she laid out, marriage equality, women's right to choose, all of that kind of stuff.
Yep.
That none of that is anywhere in the Constitution, so it has to be a living document.
Yeah,
it has to be something that needs to be interpreted
because we're no longer in 1786.
And it has to be something that changes and evolves with the fucking times. I mean, we didn't have television, radio, computers, all of this shit that we have now that could not have been foreseen when they wrote the Constitution and how to handle the different and various conflicts that would arise through the use of those types of technology.
I mean, if we have to have an amendment for every little single, the gay marriage thing, all of this shit, if we have to amend the Constitution every single fucking time, I mean, we'd have thousands of amendments by now.
Yeah. It's silly.
Is that you name could end up changing the existing law of the land. First is one that you mentioned, Mr. Trump, and that is guns. Secretary Clinton, you said last year, and let me quote, the Supreme Court is wrong on the Second Amendment. And now, in fact, in the 2008 Heller case, the court ruled that there is a constitutional right to bear arms, but a right that is reasonably limited. Those were the words of the judge, Antonin Scalia, who wrote the decision.
And isn't it weird that is such a recent decision?
Well, first of all, I support the Second Amendment. I lived in Arkansas for 18 wonderful years. I represented upstate New York. I understand and respect the tradition of gun ownership. It goes back to the founding of our country. But I also believe that there can be and must be reasonable regulation. Because I support the Second Amendment doesn't mean that I want people who shouldn't have guns to be able to threaten you, kill you or members of your family.
Yeah, why is that so hard to understand?
When I think about what we need to do, we have 33,000 people a year who die.
And why is it so hard to understand that we should have
I think we need comprehensive
logical and
background
reasonable
checks.
protections
we need to
in
close
place?
the online loophole.
I mean, even Donald Trump, I would
gun show
imagine, would say
loophole.
that no, you can't have a rocket launcher.
That are, the kind of reforms
drive
that
your
make a
tank down
that
Fifth
are
Avenue.
Not in any way conflicting with the Second Amendment. You mentioned the Heller decision, and what I was saying that you referenced, Chris, was that I disagreed with the way the court applied the Second Amendment in that case, because what the District of Columbia was trying to do was to protect toddlers from guns. And so they wanted people with guns to safely store them. And the court didn't accept that reasonable regulation, but they've accepted many others. So I see no conflict between saving people's lives and defending the Second Amendment.
Let me bring Mr. Trump in here. The bipartisan open debate coalition got millions of votes on questions to ask here, and this was, in fact, one of the top questions that they got. How will you ensure the Second Amendment is protected? You just heard Secretary Clinton's answer. Does she persuade you that while you may disagree on regulation, that in fact she supports a Second Amendment right to bear arms?
Well, the D.C. versus Heller decision was very strongly, and she was extremely angry about it. I watched. I mean, she was very, very angry when upheld. And Justice
fire came out of her butthole.
She
was very angry.
It was a well-crafted decision. But Hillary was extremely upset, extremely angry, and people that believe in the Second Amendment and believe in it very strongly were very upset with what she had to say.
Well, let me bring in Secretary Clinton. Were you
I wasn't upset with it.
Well, I was upset because, unfortunately, dozens of toddlers injure themselves, even kill people with guns, because, unfortunately, not everyone who has loaded guns in their homes takes appropriate precautions. But there's no doubt that I respect the Second Amendment, that I also believe there's an individual right to bear arms. That is not in conflict with sensible, common sense regulation. And, you know, look, I understand that Donald's been strongly supported by the NRA. The gun lobby's on his side. They're running millions of dollars of ads against me. And I regret that, because what I would like to see is for people to come together and say, of course, we're going to protect and defend the Second Amendment, but we're going to do it in a way that tries to save some of these 33,000 lives that we lose every year.
Let me bring Mr. Trump back into that, because in fact, you oppose any limits on assault weapons, any limits on high-capacity magazines. You support a national right to carry law. Why, sir?
Well, let me just tell you, before we go any further, in Chicago, which has the toughest gun laws in the United States, probably you could say by far, they have more gun violence than any other city. So we have
the neighboring cities and states don't.
Yeah, they just go get all their stuff elsewhere in Indiana.
The Second Amendment, and I don't know if Hillary was saying it in a sarcastic manner, but I'm very proud to have the endorsement of the NRA, and it's the earliest endorsement they've ever given to anybody who ran for president. So I'm very honored by all of that.
Because they recognize how pandering you are.
We are going to appoint justices. This is the best way to help the Second Amendment. We are going to appoint justices that will feel very strongly about the Second Amendment, that will not do damage.
Well, I feel very strongly about it.
Well, let's pick up
Put me on there.
He's nominating Clint Eastwood.
And he didn't answer the question, really.
That whoever ends up winning this election appoints could have a dramatic effect there, and that's the issue of abortion.
He didn't say
Mr.
why
Trump,
he supports it.
Pro-life, but I want to ask you specifically.
All he said was, "I'm going to support it." He didn't answer the question, which was why. Why do you not want to put these common sense regulations in place?
States a woman's right to abortion.
Well, if that would happen, because I am pro-life and I will be appointing pro-life judges, I would think that will go back to the individual states.
But I'm asking you specifically, would you like
to... If they overturned it, it'll go back to the states.
But what I'm asking you, sir, is, do you want
I got one.
I got one, too.
Do you want to see the court...
They're playing bingo.
Do you want to see the court...
My square was, sir, the question was about...
Another 2 or perhaps 3 justices on. That's really what's going to be... That will happen. And that'll happen automatically, in my opinion, because I am putting pro-life justices on the court. I will say this, it will go back to the states.
So it doesn't happen automatically, still, you stupid fuck.
Yeah.
Secretary Clinton.
Well, I strongly support Roe v. Wade, which guarantees a constitutional
Just putting justices on the court doesn't automatically reverse a bunch of fucking liberal policies.
In many cases, decisions.
And they may not vote that way either.
That one can imagine. And in this case, it's not only about Roe v. Wade.
And they can't just arbitrarily reverse something.
Yeah, they have to have a case presented to them.
Putting very stringent regulations on women that block them from exercising that
Grant
choice.
has half his board crossed off.
No. Defunding Planned Parenthood, which of course
I crossed out the ones that aren't going to happen.
Cancer screenings and other benefits
so I can just pay attention to
for women in our country. Donald has said
Giuliani
he's
is
in
not
favor of
gonna
defunding
tag
Planned
it.
Parenthood. He even supported shutting the government down to defund Planned Parenthood. I will defend Planned Parenthood. I will defend Roe v. Wade, and I will defend women's rights to make their own health care decisions. And we have come too far to have that turn back now. And indeed, he said women should be punished, that there should be some form of punishment. For women who obtain abortions. And I could just not be more opposed to that kind of thinking.
I'm going to give you a chance to respond, but I want to ask you, Secretary Clinton, I want to explore how far you believe the right to abortion goes. You have been quoted as saying that the fetus has no constitutional rights. You also voted against a ban on late-term partial birth abortions. Why?
Because Roe v. Wade very clearly sets out that there can be regulations on abortion so long as the life and the health of the mother are taken into account.
Look at those little hands.
And when I voted as a senator, I did not think that was the case. The kinds of cases that fall at the end of pregnancy are often the most heartbreaking, painful decisions for families to make. I have met with women who
dead,
toward the end of their pregnancy.
Yeah, nobody carries a kid for 20 weeks and then is like, I just don't want one.
To carry to term. Or that something terrible has happened or
Certainly
just
not
been discovered
7 months.
About the pregnancy. I do not think the United States government should be stepping in and making those most personal of decisions. So you can regulate if you are doing so with the life and the health of the mother taken into account.
Mr. Trump, your reaction, and particularly on this issue of
quality of life.
Well, I think it's terrible. If you go with what Hillary is saying, in the 9th month, you can take the baby and rip the baby out of the womb of the mother
Christ.
Just prior to the birth of the baby. Now, you can say that that's okay.
We're the party of
and
low
Hillary
regulation.
Can say that that's okay.
No government overreach.
Okay with me. Because based on what she's saying and based on where she's going and where she's been,
hell, sometimes they rip the live ones out.
Baby and rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month on the final day. And that's not acceptable.
I'm not even sure that's what Roe v. Wade says.
And using that kind of scare rhetoric is just terribly unfortunate. You should meet
when
with
has
some of the
that
women
ever
that
happened?
I've met with. Women I've known.
I think
over the
Roe v.
course
Wade has
of my
specific
life.
instructions for
This is one of
trimesters
the
and how
worst
that's all planned
possible
out.
choices that any woman and her family
a lot of states
has
have
to
a
make.
20-week
And I do not believe the government should
for
be
elective
making it. You know,
abortions.
I've had the great honor of
But
traveling
there are
across
some
the world
states
on
with
behalf of our
late-term-
country. I've been to countries
when,
where
like, the
governments
baby's
either
dead
forced women to have abortions
or
like they used to do
it's got
in
no
China,
brain activity,
or
it's got
forced
no
women to
spinal
bear
cord,
children
it's-
like they used to do in Romania. And I can tell you the government has no business in the decisions that women make with their families in accordance with their faith, with medical advice, and I will stand up for that right.
All right. She had all the Republicans when she said the government has no business, and then she said women.
Doing what I just said, doing that as late as 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 days prior to birth. Nobody has.
Or 6 or 9 or 20 or 54.
Immigration.
I like numbers. I have all the best numbers.
And people complain about Hillary pandering and all that.
Actually, there are a lot of issues.
As far as I can tell, she's totally consistent on
you
abortion.
Want to build a wall, Secretary Clinton. You have offered
this isn't
no
a new
specific
thing for her.
plan for how you want to secure our southern border. Mr. Trump, you are calling for major deportations. Secretary Clinton, you say that within your first 100 days as president, you're going to offer a package that includes a pathway to citizenship. The question really is, why are you right and your opponent wrong?
He hasn't
Mr. Trump, you
interrupted
go
her
first in this segment. You have
once
2
tonight,
minutes.
yeah.
Well, first of all,
No,
she
and
wants to give
I haven't
amnesty,
heard him
which is
sniff.
a disaster and very unfair to all of the people.
His
that went
nose
on
does
lives
look
for
Probably
many,
because
many
he was
years.
terrified that
We need
people would
strong
take him up on
borders.
his drug
In
test
the audience
challenge.
tonight, we have 4 mothers.
Yeah, that was one of my thoughts.
These are unbelievable people that I've gotten to know over a period of years, whose children have been killed, brutally killed by people that came into the country illegally.
What
You
about
have
people that
thousands of
did
mothers
come in
and
illegal,
fathers and relatives
illegally and were
all
killed?
over the country. They're coming in illegally. Drugs are pouring in through the border. We have no country if we have no border. Hillary wants to give amnesty. She wants to have open borders. The border secure, as you know, the Border Patrol agents, 16,500 plus ICE last week endorsed me. First time they've ever endorsed a candidate.
No.
That was Ice Cube.
But they know what's
a
going
union.
on. They know it better than anybody. They want strong borders. They feel we have to have strong borders. I was up in New Hampshire the other day. The biggest complaint they have, it's with all of the problems going on in the world, many of the problems caused by Hillary Clinton and by Barack Obama, all of the problems, their single biggest problem is heroin that pours across our southern borders, just pouring and destroying their youth. It's poisoning the blood of their youth and plenty of other people. We have to have strong borders. We have to keep the drugs out of our country. Right now, we're getting the drugs, they're getting the cash. We need strong borders. We need
Maybe he's just in bad shape.
We cannot give amnesty.
And when he talks that long, he's like,
I want to build the wall. We need the wall.
That could be.
The Border
I do
Patrol,
that.
ICE, they all want the wall.
I think it's bullshit that he gets to strawman her positions as if that's what she really, and she doesn't. She just sits there like
bad ones. We
that's
have
bullshit,
bad,
you know.
Bad people in this country.
Well,
that have to go out.
she's trying to demonstrate diplomacy.
No, I don't think. I think she's doing fine. I think it's bullshit that he brings her arguments
as to the rest. But we have some bad hombres here, and we're going to get them out.
Hombres?
Hombres. That'll be in the news tomorrow.
Yes, it will.
Trump
as he was talking, I was thinking about a young girl I met
here
in Las Vegas, Carla, who was very worried that her parents might be deported because she was born in this country, but they were not. They work hard. They do everything they can to give her a good life. And you're right. I don't want to rip families apart. I don't want to be sending parents away from children. I don't want to see the deportation force that Donald has talked about in action in our country. We have 11 million undocumented people. They have 4 million American citizen children, 15 million people. He said as recently as a few weeks ago in Phoenix that every undocumented person would be subject to deportation. Now, here's what that means. It means you would have to have a massive law enforcement presence where law enforcement officers would be going school to school, home to home, business to business, rounding up people who are undocumented. And we would then have to put them on trains, on buses to get them out of our country. I think that is an idea that is not in keeping with who we are as a nation. I think it's an idea that would rip our country apart. I have been for border security for years. I voted for border security in the United States Senate.
All those 11 million people
and my
are from fucking Mexico.
Immigration reform plan, of course, includes border security. But I want to put our resources where I think they're most needed, getting rid of any violent person, anybody who should be deported, we should deport them. When it comes to the wall that Donald talks about building, he went to Mexico. He had a meeting with the Mexican president, didn't even raise it. He choked and then got into a trade war because the Mexican president said, we're not paying for that wall. So I think we are both a nation of immigrants and we are a nation of laws, and that we can act accordingly. And that's why I'm introducing comprehensive immigration reform within the first 100 days with a path to citizenship.
Thank you, Secretary Clinton. I want to follow up.
I think it's.
I think she grabbed him by the Trump on that bit.
Yeah, she did. A good meeting with the president of Mexico. Very nice man. We will be doing very much better with Mexico on trade deals, believe me. The NAFTA deal signed by her husband's one of the worst deals ever made of any kind, signed by anybody. It's a disaster.
And when he says, believe me, that should just be, you know that I'm telling you a fucking lie right now.
2006 or thereabouts. Now, she never gets anything done, so naturally the wall wasn't built. But Hillary Clinton wanted the wall.
Well,
we are a country of laws. We either have, and by the way,
no, wait, I'd like to. I'd like to hear from Secretary Clinton.
I voted for border security, and there are some.
There's the first interruption
where that was appropriate. There also is necessarily going to be new technology and how best to deploy that. But it is clear when you look at what Donald has been proposing. He started his campaign bashing immigrants, calling Mexican immigrants rapists and criminals and drug dealers, that he has a very different view about what we should do to deal with immigrants. Now, what I am also arguing is that bringing undocumented immigrants out from the shadows, putting them into the formal economy will be good because then employers can't exploit them and undercut Americans' wages. And Donald knows a lot about this. He used undocumented labor to build the Trump Tower. Ooh. He underpaid undocumented workers, and when they complained, he basically said what a lot of employers do. You complain, I'll get you deported. I want to get everybody out of the shadows, get the economy working, and not let employers like Donald exploit undocumented workers, which hurts them, but also hurts American workers.
Yeah. She's torching him tonight.
Obama has moved millions of people out. Nobody knows about it. Nobody talks about it.
They do talk about it.
They talk about it all the time. He's deported more than Bush did.
Yeah. He's called the deporter in chief.
That's what's happened, and that's what's happened big league. As far as moving these people out and moving, we either have a country or we don't. We're a country of laws. We either have a border or we don't. Now, you can come back in and you can become a citizen, but it's very unfair. We have millions of people that did it the right way. They're online. They're waiting. We're going to speed up the process, big league, because it's very inefficient. But they're online and they're waiting to become citizens. Very unfair that somebody runs across the border, becomes a citizen.
Speed it up, big league, with extreme vetting.
On trade, and you will have a disaster with your open borders. But what she doesn't say is that President Obama has deported millions and millions of people.
No way.
Everyone knows that, unless you're a Republican.
Millions and millions?
Yes, it's been millions and millions. Yeah. He's deported. I'd have to look at the number, but it is millions.
But we will also have reform.
I thought it was in the 4 million range, but I'll look it up.
Ronald Reagan was the last president to sign.
I just know when Trump said billions, he meant millions, so I thought he was way off.
Secretary Clinton, I want to clear up your position on this issue because in a speech you gave to a Brazilian bank for which you were paid $225,000,
a Brazilian, that's so many.
We've learned from the WikiLeaks that you said this, and I want to quote: "My dream is a hemispheric common market with open trade and open borders." So that's the question.
Holy,
that's the question.
What the
Please,
fuck
quiet,
was that?
everybody. Is that your dream, open borders?
Well, if you went on to read the rest of the sentence, I was talking about energy. You know, we trade more energy with our neighbors than we trade with the rest of the world combined. And I do want us to have an electric grid, an energy system that crosses borders. I think that would be a great benefit to us. But you are very clearly quoting from WikiLeaks. And what's really important about WikiLeaks is that the Russian government has engaged
one of the bingo squares, WikiLeaks.
Against
I just need one more and I got bingo.
They have hacked American websites, American accounts of private people, of institutions. Then they have given that information to WikiLeaks for the purpose of putting it on the internet. This has come from the highest levels of the Russian government, clearly from Putin himself, in an effort, as 17 of our intelligence agencies have confirmed, to influence our election. So I actually think the most important question of this evening, Chris, is finally, will Donald Trump admit and condemn that the Russians are doing this and make it clear that he will not have the help of Putin in this election, that he rejects Russian espionage against Americans, which he actually encouraged in the past. Those are the questions we need answered. We've never had anything like this happen in any of our elections before.
That was a great pivot off the fact that you want open borders, okay? How did we get onto Putin?
Hold on. No. Wait. Hold on, folks. Because this is going to end up getting out of control. Let's try to keep it quiet. So for
that's what we're waiting for.
So we can maintain our biased questioning.
She wants open borders. People are going to pour into our country.
And I looked up the number on deportations. It says Obama's government has deported more than 2.5 million people,
he has thousands
up 23% from George W. Bush
where
years.
They come from, and you see, we are going to stop radical Islamic terrorism in this country.
So you're complaining about her pivot, and now you're pivoting into radical Islamic terrorism.
She wants open borders. Now we can talk about Putin. I don't know Putin. He said nice things about me. If we got along well, that would be good. If Russia and the United States got along well and went after ISIS, that would be good. He has no respect for her. He has no respect for our president.
That may be true, but...
And I'll tell you what, we're in very serious trouble because we
have
a
good reason
country
for that too,
with tremendous numbers of nuclear warheads, 1,800, by the way, where they expanded and we didn't.
That you're wondering why we don't use them.
Nuclear warheads, and she's playing chicken. Look,
You don't even know what the fuck the nuclear triad is.
For this person.
Well, that's because he'd rather have a puppet as president.
Nope.
Oh, yes!
To be clear, you won't admit that the Russians have engaged in cyber attacks against the United States of America.
Your whole board went red.
Espionage against our people.
That might be the worst peeking I've ever seen.
Spout the Putin line, sign up for his wish list, break up NATO, do whatever he wants to do, and that you continue to get help from him because he has a very clear favorite in this race. So I think that this is such an unprecedented
Putin
situation.
wants Trump because Trump won't challenge him. Won't challenge him on the Ukraine, on Syria.
17 intelligence agencies,
doesn't even know what he's doing.
Civilian and military, who have all concluded that these espionage attacks,
Hillary
these cyber
supported
attacks,
the protesters who
come from the highest
protested
levels
Putin
of the Kremlin,
a third
and they
term.
are designed to influence our election. I find that deeply
Russia is limited to 2 terms. He took a third.
No idea whether
Russia,
China, or
protests.
I am not quoting
She stood up for the protesters.
You have no idea.
17 do you doubt 17
our
military
country has
and
no
civilian
idea.
agencies?
Our country has no idea.
But he does.
Vladimir Putin.
But he doesn't know Putin.
Military and civilian intelligence professionals who are sworn to protect us. I find that just absolutely
She doesn't like Putin because Putin has outsmarted her at every step of the way. Excuse me. Putin has outsmarted her in Syria. He's outsmarted her every step of the way.
I do get to ask some questions.
Yes,
and I would like to ask you this direct question. The top national security officials of this country do believe that Russia has been behind these hacks. Even if you don't know for sure whether they are, do you condemn any interference by Russia in the American election?
By Russia or anybody else?
You condemn their interference?
Of course I condemn. Of course I can. I don't know.
I condemn. Have you ever met me? I condemn all the fucking time.
He's not my best friend. But if the
I'll give Russia the biggest condemn.
Wouldn't be so bad. Let me tell you, Putin has outsmarted
Russia,
her
you're fired.
and Obama at every single step of the way. Whether it's Syria, you name it, missiles. Take a look at the startup.
I condemn your missiles, man.
The Russians have said, according to many, many reports, I can't believe they allowed us to do this. They create warheads and we can't. The Russians can't believe it. She has been outsmarted by Putin, and all you have to do is look at the Middle East. They've taken over.
We are the top arms exporter in the world.
She has been outsmarted and outplayed worse than anybody I've ever seen in any government whatsoever.
We're a long way away from immigration, but I'm going to let you finish
Russia
this.
just finally updated their AK-47.
Always will be.
I find it ironic that he's raising nuclear weapons. This is a person
durability.
who has been very cavalier, even casual about the use of nuclear weapons. He's advocated more countries getting them, Japan, Korea, even Saudi Arabia.
No, I didn't.
He said, well, if we have them, why don't we use them, which I think is terrifying. But here's the deal. The bottom line on nuclear weapons is that when the president gives the order, it must be followed. There's about 4 minutes between the order being given and the people responsible for launching nuclear weapons to do so. And that's why 10 people who have had that awesome responsibility have come out and in an unprecedented way said they would not trust Donald Trump with the nuclear
Those commercials are pretty damning.
His finger on the nuclear button.
Yep. I have 200 generals and admirals.
They're
21
not with their hands on the button.
21 Congressional Medal of Honor.
I have them in the list. I can show you right now.
Japan and other countries.
Where is my spank bank list? Where did I put that?
He just said 21 Congressional Medal of Honor recipients. I thought last week it was 40.
Fortune doing it.
Oh, I don't know.
They have the bargain of the century. All I said is we have to renegotiate these agreements because our country cannot afford to defend Saudi Arabia, Japan, Germany, South Korea, and many other places. We cannot continue to afford. She took that as saying nuclear weapons. Look,
well, you did
she's
say
been proven
nuclear
to be
weapons.
a liar in so many different ways. This is just another lie.
Well, I'm just quoting you. When
there's
you were
no
asked
quote,
about
you're not going to find a quote from
nuclear competition in Asia, you said Go ahead, enjoy yourselves, folks.
Why wouldn't we want Japan to have them?
And defend yourselves. And defend yourselves. I didn't say nuclear. And defend yourself.
The United States has kept the peace through our alliances. Donald wants to tear up our alliances. I think it makes the world safer, and frankly, it makes the United States safer. I would work with our allies in Asia, in Europe, in the Middle East, and elsewhere.
Yeah, it was.
That's the only way we're going to be.
I'd actually like to hear that again. I'm not sure what she was trying to say.
Well, she's the economy. She's saying that Donald Trump wants to get rid of all of our alliances, all of our trusted relationships with other nations. Donald Trump wants to get rid of those. And then she turned and said, I think it makes us stronger. She should have followed it up with, to have those alliances
makes us safer.
Makes us stronger and safer.
It almost sounded like she was saying that what Trump wanted to do made us safer.
Right, yeah, that's why I say it was worded really, really, really poorly.
Yeah, so
we handled that as well as we did immigration. You also have very different ideas about how to get the economy growing faster. Secretary Clinton, in your plan, government plays a big role. You see more government spending, more entitlements, more tax credits, more tax penalties. Mr. Trump, you want to get government out with lower taxes and less regulation.
Yes.
We're going to drill down into this a little bit more, but in this overview, please explain to me why you believe that your plan will create more jobs and growth for this country and your opponent's plan will not. In this round, you go first, Secretary Clinton.
Well, I think when the middle class thrives, America thrives. And so my plan is based on growing the economy, giving middle-class families many more opportunities. I want us to have the biggest jobs program since World War II.
How about
jobs
growing
in
the middle class,
and
period?
Advanced manufacturing.
The middle class is shrinking.
I think we can compete with high-wage countries, and I believe we should. New jobs and clean energy, not only to fight climate change, which is a serious problem, but to create new opportunities and new businesses. I want us to do more to help small business. That's where 2/3 of the new jobs are going to come from. I want us to raise the national minimum wage because people who live in poverty should not, who work full time should not still be in poverty. And I sure do want to make sure women get equal pay for the work we do. I feel strongly that we have to have an education system that starts with preschool and goes through college. That's why I want more technical education in high schools and in community colleges, real apprenticeships to prepare young people for the jobs of the future. I want to make college debt-free, and for families making less than $125,000, you will not get a tuition bill from a public college or university if the plan that I worked on with Bernie Sanders is enacted. And we're going to work hard to make sure that it is, because we are going to go where the money is. Most
not just the people who are going to school, but everybody.
Years since the Great Recession have gone to the very top.
We would become the technological innovators again.
Wealthy
which is
pay
what we
their
need.
fair share. We're going to
Technological
have
innovators in
corporations
renewable energy.
make a contribution greater than they are now to our country. That is a plan that has been analyzed by independent experts, which said that it could produce 10 million new jobs. By contrast, Donald's plan has been analyzed to conclude it might lose 3.5 million jobs. Why? Because his whole plan is to cut taxes, to give the biggest tax breaks ever to the wealthy and to corporations, adding $20 trillion to our debt, and causing the kind of dislocation that we have seen before, because it truly will be trickle-down economics on steroids. So the plan I have, I think, will actually produce greater opportunities.
Do I get that?
I'm glad she didn't say trumped-up trickle-down economics.
Well, I have that.
That's a square.
Thank you.
Well, then we all get it.
It's on the bingo. If you want to grant it, then you all get it.
Well, first of all, before
I feel
I
like
start on
it's
my
close.
plan, her plan is going to raise taxes and even double your taxes. Her tax plan is a disaster. And she can say all she wants about college tuition. And I'm a big proponent. We're going to do a lot of things for college tuition. But
what are you going to do? Tell us. Give us some specifics, Bucko.
It's going to be awesome,
tax
man.
Increase under Hillary Clinton's
It's going to be
plan.
huge.
But I'd like to start off where we left. Because when I said Japan and Germany, and I'm not to single them out, but South Korea, these are very rich, powerful countries. Saudi Arabia.
I'm not sure South Korea is a rich,
Saudi Arabia.
Powerful
Why
country.
aren't they paying? She immediately, when she heard
it's a
this,
fairly
I
wealthy
questioned
country.
it. And I questioned NATO. Why aren't the NATO questions?
Compared to
Why aren't
us
they
or
paying?
Japan?
Because they weren't paying. Since I did this was a year ago, all of a sudden they're paying. And I've been given a lot of
there's
credit
a lot
for
of
it. All
technology
a sudden,
coming
they're
out of
starting
South
to
Korea.
pay up. They have to pay up.
Samsung,
for
instance.
They have to pay up. And I'm a big fan of NATO, but they have to pay up. She comes out and said, we love our allies. We think our allies are great. Well, it's awfully hard to get them to pay up when you have somebody saying, we think how great they are. We have to tell Japan in a very nice way. We have to tell Germany, all of these countries, South Korea. We have to say.
Donald Trump is known for telling people things in a very nice way.
Regime, during President Obama's regime, we've doubled our national debt. We're up to $20 trillion. So my plan, we're going to renegotiate trade deals. We're going to have a lot of free trade. We're going to have free trade, more free trade than we have right now. But we have horrible deals. Our jobs are being taken out by the deal.
So is he for TPP or against TPP?
Our jobs are being
But maybe he's forgetting that under Bush, our debt went up 101%, and underneath Obama, it went up 51%.
You go to Florida, you go to any of them. You go upstate New York. Our jobs have fled to Mexico and other places. We're bringing our jobs back. I am going to renegotiate NAFTA. And if I can't make a great deal, then we're going to terminate NAFTA and we're going to create new deals. We're going to have trade. But we're going to terminate it. We're going to make
I wonder
what
Canada says about that, because NAFTA is more than just Mexico.
Because
it's also Canada.
North American for
We're going to cut
I don't think they
taxes
like
massively.
Trump.
We're going to cut business taxes massively. They're going to start hiring people. We're going to bring the $2.5 trillion.
That has never fucking worked.
Into the country.
Never.
We are going
Especially when those taxes are close to 60% of our
country is dying
taxes we take in.
1% GDP.
Well, let me translate that if I can.
They cut their
Chris,
taxes and they just throw it in a fucking bank. They don't invest it anywhere. They don't reinvest it into the economy.
Advocate for the largest tax cuts we've ever seen, 3 times more than the tax cuts under the Bush administration. I have said repeatedly throughout this campaign, I will not raise taxes on anyone making $250,000 or less. I also will not add a penny to the debt. I have costed out what I'm going to do. He will, through his massive tax cuts, add $20 trillion to the debt. Well, he mentioned the debt. We know how to get control of the debt. When my husband was president, we went from a $300 billion deficit to a $200 billion surplus, and we were actually on the path to eliminating the national debt. When President Obama came into office, he inherited the worst economic disaster since the Great Depression. He has cut the deficit
under a Republican administration.
2/3. So, yes, one of the ways you go after the debt, one of the ways you create jobs is by investing in people. So I do have investments in new jobs, investments in education, skill training, and the opportunities for people to get ahead and stay ahead. That's the kind of approach that will work. Cutting taxes on the wealthy, we've tried that. It has not
tried that since the 80s. It's never worked.
Secretary Clinton, I want to pursue your plan.
I need to interrupt you because you're making good points.
It is similar to the Obama stimulus plan in 2009, which has led to the slowest GDP growth since 1949.
But it's still growth. We're no longer moving in the negative. We're growing.
You told
Why is that a bad thing?
And it's coming after the worst economy since 1929.
Yeah. In what he was trying to do with this stimulus. So is your plan basically even more of the Obama stimulus?
We fucked it all up and you're not fixing it as fast as we would like you to fix it.
Yeah, exactly.
And no matter how fast you fixed it, they would always say you could fix it a little bit faster. If it was 5%, they say, well, why isn't it 6? And if it was 6, why isn't it 9?
I was in the Senate before I became Secretary of State. I've never seen people as physically distraught as the Bush administration team was because of what was happening to the economy. I personally believe that the steps that President Obama took saved the economy. He doesn't get the credit he deserves for taking some very hard positions. But it was a terrible recession. So now we've dug ourselves out of it. We're standing, but we're not yet running. So what I am proposing is
I tend to think
invest from the middle out
slow,
and the ground up.
Secure, stable growth is a whole lot better than rapid, unstable growth that could collapse under itself.
It'd be a bubble.
It'd be just another bubble.
This is true growth. To take those new jobs, higher paying jobs. We're beginning to see some increase in incomes, and we certainly have had a long string of increasing jobs. We've got to do more to get the
something
whole
like
economy
80
moving,
months?
and that's what I believe I will be able to do.
Record
Mr.
80
Trump,
months
even
or so.
conservative
Job
economists who have looked at your plan say that the numbers don't add up, that your idea, and you've talked about 25 million jobs created.
I wonder if anybody's counting how many times he takes a drink. She hasn't taken any. That was his third or fourth.
And they say, you talk a lot about growing the energy industry. They say with oil
Liquid
prices
cocaine.
as low as they are right now, that's unrealistic as well. Your response?
So I just left some high representatives of India. They're growing at 8%. China is growing at 7%, and that for them is a catastrophically low number. We are growing. Our last report came out, and it's right around the 1% level, and I think it's going down. Last week, as you know, at the end of last week, they came out with an anemic jobs report.
As you know, in fact, which means I just found out the other day.
Before the election, because if it is, I should win easily. It was so bad. The report was so bad. Look, our country is stagnant. We've lost
the last
our
guy
jobs.
from your
We've
party
lost
had us
our
in the
businesses.
negative territory. You fucking dummy.
Anymore, relatively speaking. Our product is pouring in from China, pouring in from Vietnam, pouring in from all over the world. I've visited so many communities. This has been such an
where I was
incredible
setting up
education for me,
businesses to
Chris.
bring in shit from
I've gotten to know
other
I've
countries.
developed so many friends over the last year, and they cry when they see what's happened. I passed factories that were thriving.
No, they cry because you molested them.
Because of the bill that her husband signed and she blessed 100%. It is just horrible what's happened to these people in these communities. Now, she can say that her husband did well, but boy, did they suffer as NAFTA kicked in.
Anecdotes don't make
data.
data.
In very much.
No.
Sorry. It kicked in after they left. Boy, did they suffer.
But as Gingrich says, it's what's more important than facts or how people feel about
now
things.
She wants to sign Trans-Pacific Partnership, and she wants it. She
perfectly
lied when
spoken
she said
from
she
a-
didn't call it the gold
from a
standard.
Republican, yeah.
She totally lied. She did call it the gold standard, and they actually fact-checked, and they said I was right. I was so honored.
I want to give you a chance to briefly speak to that, and then I want to pivot to 1/6
And that
of the
will be as
economy,
bad as NAFTA.
which is
She looks like
Obamacare,
she
but
was
go
just
ahead.
waiting for him to say that.
First, let me say number one. When I saw the final agreement
takes another
for
drink.
TPP, I said I was against it. It didn't meet my tests. I've had the same tests. Does it create jobs, raise incomes, and further our national security? I'm against it now. I'll be against it after the election. I'll be against it when I'm president. There's only one of us on this stage who's actually shipped jobs to Mexico, because that's Donald. He's shipped jobs to 12 countries, including Mexico. But he mentioned China. And, you know, one of the biggest problems we have with China is the illegal dumping of steel and aluminum into our markets.
Steel that Trump has
fought against
bought.
that.
Yep.
As a senator, I've stood up against it as Secretary of State. Donald has bought Chinese steel and aluminum. In fact, the Trump hotel right here in Las Vegas was made with Chinese steel. So he goes around with crocodile tears about how terrible it is, but he's
not shaking his head no during this.
He hasn't yet.
Mr. Trump?
That's the kind of approach that is just not going to work. We're going to pull the country together. We're going to have trade agreements that we enforce. That's why I'm going to have a trade prosecutor for the first time in history. And we're going to enforce those agreements. And we're going to look for businesses to help us by buying American products.
I asked
She's much more aggressive tonight.
She's been doing this for 30
She still
years.
needs to know how to really finish it strong.
Yeah.
15,
Instead of
20
continuing, just
years.
finish on a really strong
just
point.
really hit it and go and leave it.
You were very
Drop
much
the mic.
involved in every aspect of this country. Very much. And you do have experience. I'd say the one thing you have over me is experience, but it's bad experience because what you've done has turned out badly. For 30 years, you've been in a position to help. And if you say that I use steel or I use something else, I make it impossible for me to do that. I wouldn't mind. The problem is you
fucking
talk,
asshole.
but you don't get anything done, Hillary. You don't. Just like when you ran the State Department,
I'll use illegal steel. Why don't you try to stop me?
You ran the State Department. $6 billion was either
That's because
stolen,
everyone's been saying
they
he
don't
was
know.
so smart for losing $1 billion.
$6 billion.
That's fucking bullshit. $6 billion
this
didn't
country
disappear.
is going to be in
They
some
lost a couple
mess,
of receipts.
Well, first of all, what
Probably
he just
one
said
receipt.
about the State Department
It
is
was
not only
just some
untrue, it's been debunked
misfiling
numerous times.
of contract
But
paperwork.
I think it's really an important
Or
issue.
black
He raised the
projects.
30 years of experience. So let me just talk briefly
wasn't-
about that.
They
You
didn't
know,
lose $6
Back in
billion.
the 1970s, I worked for the Children's Defense Fund, and I was taking on discrimination against African American kids in schools. he was getting
They're
sued
kind
by
of
the
all
Justice
over the
Department
map
for
now.
racial discrimination in his apartment buildings. In the 1980s, I was working to reform the schools in Arkansas.
You can see her looking down at her
borrowing
notes for
$14
talking
million
points.
from his father to start his businesses. In the 1990s, I went to Beijing and I said, women's rights are human rights. He insulted a former Miss Universe, Alicia Machado, called her an eating machine. And on the day when I was
on
in the
video, you
Situation
fucking
Room,
idiot.
monitoring the raid that brought Osama bin Laden to justice, he was hosting the Celebrity Apprentice. So I'm happy to compare my 30 years of experience, what I've done for this country, trying to help in every way I could, especially kids and families get ahead and stay ahead, with your 30 years, and I'll let the American people make that decision.
Yeah,
Well, I
there
think
we
I
go.
did a much better
There
job
we go.
of building mass
That's
companies,
what you're talking
companies,
about.
Some of the greatest
Yeah.
assets anywhere in the world, worth many, many billions of dollars. I started with a $1 million
Like
loan.
the
I agree
Taj
with that.
Mahal?
It's a $1 million loan. but I
Bullshit!
built
You fucking
a
liar! $1 million,
phenomenal
my
company.
ass.
And
How much
if
did
I
you
run
inherit when
our
your dad
country
died?
the way
I guess
run
it was
my
$1 million,
company,
but he took
we
another
would
$9 million in
have a
loans from his
country
father
that you
after
would
that
be
$1
so
million
proud
wasn't
of.
enough.
You would even be proud of it.
From what
And
I,
frankly,
from everything I've read, he
when you
borrowed
look at her real
$17
record,
million.
Take a look at Syria.
And he
Take
had
a look
all
at
of
the
his dad's
migration. Take a look
connections.
at Libya.
Yeah, right.
Take a look
Banking
at Iraq.
connections and business
She
connections.
gave us ISIS because her and Obama
Nazi
created this
Germany
huge
connections.
vacuum. And a small group came out of that
KKK
huge vacuum
connections.
because when they
Skull and
should have never
Bones.
been in Iraq. But once we were there, we should have never got out the way they wanted to get out.
We didn't have a choice in
We
leaving.
didn't have a
Sitting
fucking choice.
there. And what happened
We didn't
is
have a
now ISIS is
sofa.
in 32
Jesus.
countries. And now I listen how she's going to get rid of ISIS. She's going to get rid of nobody.
All right, we are going to get to foreign hotspots in a few moments, but the next
he keeps
segment
coming
is
so close to the misogyny
be
square.
President of the United States. Mr. Trump, at the last debate, you said your talk about grabbing women was just that, talk.
I hate this guy.
And that you'd never actually done it. And since then, as
We've actually
we all
had some
know,
really interesting
9 women
developments
have
on
come
ISIS
forward
just in
and
the last
said
couple
that
of
you
days.
either
They're
groped
going down.
They're
or
going
kissed
down.
them without
They're
their
no
consent.
longer a state
Why would
terrorists.
so many different women
Because they
from
took
so
the
many
state
different
away. They took
circumstances
their
over so
city
many
and their
different years,
finances.
why would they all
Now they're
in
just
this
a
last couple of
disparate
weeks-
band of terrorists.
Yeah, they've lost 2 major territories in the last week.
Mm-hmm.
And Iraq's taking back Mosul. So
That was one of the territories I was talking about, because Mosul's, well, I guess it's not taken yet, but it's
taken
on
yet,
the way there.
But they took another one
That was in-
along with millions of dollars that were.
Yeah, it was one of the cities that wasn't in Iraq.
forget
It was
the
up
name of
north
it.
in Syria. Was one
Yeah.
of their major hubs that they got taken out. It wasn't. I can't think of the name of their actual headquarters state where they said just nuke the area. It's like, well, there's just a lot of civilians that live there too, so you're just innocently killing a whole bunch of people, and that's going to cause more terrorists to sprout up.
But yeah, I mean, if they take Mosul and if they can shift ISIS from being a documented state into just being a disparate band of terrorists, I mean that's a huge gain. That's for us. I mean that's a huge shift.
And they're probably slowly running out of resources because they're having to fight on all. They're basically fighting on 3 fronts right now.
On a lot of fronts, yeah.
Well, one front backs up into basically nowhere, but they've got the Syrian side, the Iraq side, and then the Kurds are pushing up on the right side of them. And they're fighting everywhere right now.
Yeah.
And they're not going to be able to withstand that and be able to keep their numbers up to be able to hold out.
God, I mean, wouldn't it be awesome if ISIS was just kind of, I mean, it will never be totally wiped out because it's an
idea.
It's a philosophy.
Yeah. You can't kill an idea or a philosophy.
But I mean, just within the next few weeks, I mean, if ISIS were just kind of totally castrated and I mean, that would just be, it would be a feather in Obama's cap.
And you can watch the news and hear the special words for special forces in the Middle East when they're like, we've got 5,000 non-combatant advisors helping the Iraqis out. It's like those non-combatant advisors are special forces.
That's SEAL Team 6.
Yeah, they're embedded badasses helping out the Iraqis right now.
But they're not. They're non-combatants.
We say that to keep it legal. We did the same thing in Afghanistan in the 80s.
Back this up just a bit here.
We all know, States. Mr. Trump at the last debate You said your talk about grabbing women was just that, talk.
Pussy
and that you'd never actually done it. And since then, as we all know, 9 women have come forward and said that you either groped them or kissed them without their consent. Why would so many different women from so many different circumstances over so many different years, why would they all in this last couple of weeks make up? You
have the same story.
Why would they all make up these stories?
And other women came forward to corroborate.
Secretary Clinton, Mr. Trump says what your husband did and that you defended was even worse. Mr. Trump, you go first.
Well, first of all, those stories have been largely debunked. Those people, I don't know those people.
No.
I have a feeling how they came.
How? Where?
It was her campaign that did.
Tell us how they've been debunked.
He just heard that word when Hillary used it against him. So,
where I was wondering what happened with my rally in Chicago and other rallies where we had such violence. She's the one in Obama that caused the violence. They hired people.
What?
They're talking about that fucking video. O'Keefe.
Be violent, cause fights, do bad things. I would say the only way, because those stories are all totally false. I have to say that.
He's using the O'Keefe videos from the
to
last
my
couple
wife,
of days
who's sitting right
to
here,
defend.
because I didn't do anything. I didn't know any of these women. I didn't see these women. These women.
You're a fucking liar.
No, he wears a blindfold when he molests people.
Fame or her campaign did it. And I think it's her campaign because
I didn't know them at the time. They were beautiful. I fucking groped and attacked them. I didn't know them.
Where they're telling people to go out and start fistfights and start
It's also a criminal act to sexually assault a woman
in Chicago,
or man.
People were hurt and people could have been killed in that riot. And that was now all on tape. Started
Why the fuck are you even talking about that? That has nothing to do with the question that was asked.
These people to step forward. If it wasn't, they get their 10 minutes of fame. But they were all totally, it was all fiction. It was lies and it was fiction.
No, you're fucking lying.
Well,
O'Keefe is a liar.
At the last debate.
Have you seen those videos?
Donald talking
no,
about
I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. What are the O'Keefe videos you're talking about?
So O'Keefe.
I don't know what the fuck he's talking about, and I don't know. What
okay, so I'll tell you exactly what he's talking about.
Okay.
It came out the last couple of days. 2 videos are out. O'Keefe says there are going to be more. O'Keefe is that video documentarian who does the chopped up videos. He's gotten in trouble for it. He's had to pay fines. He was charged for it. He does the hidden camera videos.
Okay.
Where what do you do? Planned Parenthood.
Is he the Planned Parenthood video guy?
He might have been the Planned Parenthood guy. He was the guy who took down Acorn.
Oh,
he was the guy who took down Acorn with his bullshit videos. And he does the hidden camera videos and then he chops them all up.
Highly
edited, taking things out of context, all that. So a couple of days ago, he starts publishing these, this new video series, under a name Veritas or something like that. And he's put 2 out that I know of where he's interviewing with,
he's using the Latin word for truth.
Yeah.
For
he's done these interviews with these political companies, not her campaign and not her, but these companies, and he's getting on video where they're hiring people to go into the Trump campaign, the rallies, wearing Planned Parenthood shirts or shouting out things about Trump's a Nazi, hoping to, or at least this is the way the video portrays it, to provoke violence and to try and get the other people to attack the person wearing the Planned Parenthood. That's the way the video portrays what's going on.
Seems a very dangerous thing to do.
Well, and the video is all chopped up, and it's a classic kind of chopped up thing, and the whole thing. So, I'm given the source, given that it's O'Keefe, and given the quality of the video and the way they cut it all up and everything, unless they release the unedited interactions with these people, I'm just not buying it. But supposedly,
giving his history with this kind of shit.
But honestly, even if they did do that, okay, it's a little dirty politics, but it's politics.
Well, and it's still just getting a natural response from his supporters.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like they're out there throwing punches. They're out there wearing a Planned Parenthood t-shirt, hoping to show America how violent Trump's supporters are. So it's a little dirty politics, even if it is true.
But how can they prove that Hillary is behind it or her campaign is behind it instead of just an activist group in the area?
And that's the innuendo in the video, but he doesn't show any actual direct proof of a connection between this group and the Clinton campaign or anything like that.
Okay.
So that's the O'Keefe videos, and that's what he's talking about, because they also imply that the Chicago riot was caused by the same company, that they intentionally started that riot at the behest of Clinton's campaign.
So we have Donald Trump trying to refute the stories being corroborated by independent people coming forward saying that, yes, Donald Trump groped me, or I saw him grope somebody, or this person told me immediately after the fact that Donald Trump had groped them. So he's countering these actual factual accounts from various multiple sources with one guy that we know has a history of fucking lying on shit like this.
Posting a bunch of videos on YouTube.
Sweet plan, Donald.
Of hidden camera interviews with people that no one's ever heard of before.
Now, the recent one was the woman that said she was molested on the aircraft, if I'm correct, was when I had the friend that came forward and said, yeah, she told me the day after that had happened and she felt awkward about it.
Yeah.
And I felt it was right for me to come forward because Donald thinks no one knew about this at the time.
Yeah.
All right. Back to the debate.
At the last debate, we heard Donald talking about what he did to women. And after that, a number of women have come forward saying that's exactly what he did to them. Now, what was his response? Well, he held a number of big rallies where he said that he could not possibly have done those things to those women because they were not attractive enough for...
They're not attractive enough for me to grope them.
Yes, you did.
Her 2 minutes, sir. Her 2 minutes.
So shut the fuck up, Donald.
2 minutes.
Not a direct quote, to be fair.
Look at her. I don't think so. About another woman, he said, that wouldn't be my first choice. He attacked
wouldn't be my first choice to sexually assault this woman.
Story, called her disgusting, as he has called a number of women during this campaign. You know, Donald thinks belittling women makes him bigger. He goes after their dignity, their self-worth, and I don't think there is a woman anywhere who doesn't know what that feels like.
Yeah.
So we now know what Donald thinks and what he says.
He was about to
and how
jump
he acts
in.
toward women. That's who Donald is.
Yep.
I think it's really up to all of us to demonstrate who we are and who our country is, and to stand up and be very clear about what we expect from our next president, how we want to bring our country together, where we don't want to have the kind of pitting of people one against the other, where instead we celebrate our diversity, we lift people up, and we make our country even greater. America is great because America is good. And it really
bingo!
Bingo.
You guys got another
bingo.
bingo
You got bingo. Oh, fuck you.
Now and in the future, and particularly for our children and our grandchildren.
Mr. Trump.
Nobody has more respect for women than I do. Nobody.
Wait, that's on here too, isn't it?
Please, everybody.
And frankly,
the crowd groans.
Those stories have been
nobody ever in human history.
I really want to just talk about something slightly different. She mentions this, which is all fiction, all fictionalized. Probably possibly started by her very sleazy campaign. But I will tell you,
possibly
what isn't fictionalized are her emails, where she destroyed
30,000
emails criminally, after getting a subpoena from the United States
the second
Congress.
pivot.
Yep.
What happened to the FBI? I don't know. We have a great general, 4-star general. Today,
he refuses to answer this question.
Why isn't Wallace interrupting him and saying this isn't the fucking question that was asked?
He doesn't want Hillary to win.
To the FBI, one lie. She's lied hundreds of times to the people, to Congress, and to the
That's
FBI.
not what we were talking about, Donald.
She's going to probably go to jail. This is a 4-star general. And she gets away with it, and she can run for the presidency of the United States.
It was a 4-star general that was telling his mistress top secret shit.
Where somebody wants fame, or where they come out of her crooked
Was that
campaign.
Petraeus?
Secretary Clinton.
Well,
yes.
every time Donald
she was
is pushed
also writing
on
his
something
biography.
which is obviously uncomfortable, like what these women are saying, he immediately goes to denying responsibility. And it's not just about women.
No, I don't.
He never apologizes or says he's sorry for anything.
Yes, I do.
So we know what he has said and what he's done to women. But he also went after a disabled reporter, mocked and mimicked him on national television. He went after Mr. and Mrs. Khan, the parents of a young man who died serving our country, a Gold Star family because of their religion.
Right.
He went after John McCain, a prisoner of war, said he prefers people who aren't captured. He went after a federal judge born in Indiana, but who Donald said couldn't be trusted to try the fraud and racketeering case against Trump University because his parents were Mexican. So it's not one thing. This is a pattern of divisiveness, of a very dark and in many ways dangerous vision
and
of our
un-American
country, where he incites
He
violence,
nodded to
where
that.
he applauds people who are pushing and pulling and punching at his rallies. That is not who America is. And I hope that as we move in the last weeks of this
shrugs his fucking
campaign,
shoulders.
more and more people will understand what's at stake in this election.
I love
it
the
really
split
does
screen
come down
thing.
to what kind of country
so do
we are
I,
going to have.
So sad when she talks about violence at my rallies, and she caused the violence. It's on tape. The other things are false, but honestly, I'd love to talk about getting rid of ISIS, and I'd love to talk about other
Can
things.
we move away from
Those
me
other charges,
groping
as
these
she
women?
knows, are false.
We talk about
in this
something
bucket
else.
About fitness to be president. There's been a lot of developments over the last 10 days since the last debate. I'd like to ask you about them. These are questions that the American people have. Secretary Clinton, during your 2009 Senate confirmation hearing, you promised to avoid even the appearance of a conflict of interest with your dealing with the Clinton Foundation while you were Secretary of State. But emails show that donors got special access to you. Those seeking grants for Haiti relief were considered separately from non-donors, and some of those donors got government contracts, taxpayer money. Can you really say that
What
you
the
kept
fuck
your
do
pledge
Republicans
to that
care
Senate
about
committee, and why isn't
sending
what
money to
happened and
Haiti?
what went on?
Yeah.
Why is this all of a sudden
between
important to
you
him?
and the Clinton Foundation? Why isn't it what Mr. Trump calls pay to play?
Well, everything I did as Secretary of State was in furtherance of our country's interests and our values. The State Department has said that. I think that's been proven. But I am happy. In fact, I'm thrilled to talk about the Clinton Foundation because it is a world-renowned charity. And I am so proud of the work that it does. You know, I could talk for the rest of the debate.
With a better rating than the fucking American Red Cross.
Just briefly, the Clinton Foundation made it possible for 11 million people around the world with HIV/AIDS to afford treatment. And that's about half of all the people in the world who are getting treatment. In partnership with the American Health Association, we have made environments in schools healthier for kids, including healthier lunches.
Respectfully,
I got to cut you off.
This is an open discussion.
This isn't what I asked.
I understand, and the specific question went to pay for play. Do you want to talk about
there
that?
is no evidence, but there is
It's fine to let Trump talk about whatever.
The very good work
And it's a
the
criminal
high
enterprise,
rankings that
and
the
so many
Please let
people know
Mr.
it.
Trump speak.
It's a criminal enterprise.
Please let Mr. Trump speak.
Saudi Arabia giving $25 million.
He interrupted her.
Qatar,
Yep.
all of these countries. You talk about women and women's rights. So these are people that push gays off buildings.
All of a sudden now Donald Trump is a huge advocate for the gay community.
Take their money.
For gays,
so I'd like to ask you right now, why don't you give back the money that you've taken from certain countries that treat certain groups of people?
That was ISIS. I don't think she's taking any money from
Give back
ISIS.
the money? I think
God
it would be
damn
a
it. Give me the
great
misogyny
gesture.
square.
Well,
You're
she
so
takes
fucking
a tremendous
close.
amount of money, and you take a look at the people of Haiti. I was at a little Haiti the
If
other
you
day
care so
in
much
Florida,
about the gay
and I wanna tell
community,
you,
how about you
they
kick
hate
Saudis
the
out of the
Clintons,
41st floor
because what's happened in Haiti
of Trump
with the Clinton
Towers
Foundation
that they bought?
is a disgrace, and you know it, and they know it, and everybody knows it.
It might not have been
very quickly,
41st
we
floor.
at the Clinton
a top floor.
Foundation
It's
spent
a whole
90%. 90% of all the money that is donated on behalf of programs of people around the world and in our own country. I'm very proud of that. We have the highest rating from the watchdogs that follow foundations. And I'd be happy to compare what we do with the Trump Foundation, which took money from other people and bought a 6-foot portrait of Donald. I mean, who does that? It just was astonishing.
A narcissist.
But when it comes to Haiti, Haiti is the poorest country in our hemisphere. The earthquake and the hurricanes, it has devastated Haiti.
Yeah, it's been bad.
Bill and I have been involved in trying to help Haiti for many years. The Clinton Foundation raised $30 million to help Haiti after the catastrophic earthquake and all of the terrible problems the people there had. We've done things to help small businesses, agriculture, and so much else. And we're going to keep working to help Haiti because it's an important part of the American
They don't want you to help them anymore.
What? They don't want their help anymore? What?
Trump Foundation, small foundation.
Says who?
Also, Wallace is cutting her off every time she gets on a roll.
100% goes to different charities, including a lot of military.
100%?
Bullshit!
That's bullshit!
That is bullshit! Oh my God!
Wasn't some of the money used to settle your lawsuit, sir?
No, it was. We put up the American flag, and that's
what?
They put up the American flag. We fought for the right in Palm Beach to put up the American flag.
There was a penalty that was imposed by Palm Beach County, and the money came from your foundation.
And by the way, the money went to Fisher House, where they build houses. The money that you're talking about went to Fisher House, where they build houses for veterans and disabled.
The penalty. Of course, there's no way we can know whether any of that is true because he hasn't released his tax returns. He's the first candidate ever to run for president in the last 40 plus years who has not released his tax returns. So everything he says about charity or
happily
nodding, we can't prove it. You can look at our tax returns.
Nor does he release a donor list for his foundation.
What is really troubling is that we learned in the last debate he has not paid a penny in federal income tax. And we were talking about immigrants a few minutes ago, Chris. You know, half of all immigrants, undocumented immigrants in our country actually pay federal income tax. So
killing him.
we have undocumented
She's
immigrants
actually
in America
torching him
who are paying
tonight.
more federal income tax than a billionaire. I find that
let me just tell you very
astonishing.
Simply, we're entitled because of the laws that people
we're
like
entitled
to take massive amounts
bad
of
choice of words.
Yeah, no doubt. So we do it. And all of
I thought he was against entitlement.
Buffett took hundreds of millions of dollars. George Soros, took hundreds of millions of dollars. Let me just explain.
Now he's throwing other people under the bus.
Most of her donors have done the same thing as I did.
Okay.
And you know what
Wallace has to shut that down. Shut it down.
What you should have done? You should have changed the law when you were a United States
She
Senator.
couldn't.
She's not allowed to.
And your special interests are doing the same thing as I do, except even more so.
Well,
you
no, they're
change
not.
The law, but you won't
They
change the
proved
law
that wrong.
Because you take
so his defense is
money.
saying that what I did is bad, but other people do it also, that it's even worse?
Yeah, his entire debate strategy is,
I'm rubber, you're glue.
I sat there watching ad after
Wait a minute, can you back that up?
Yeah.
I want to know what everyone laughed at.
She said something.
She said something and everyone
everybody
laughed.
in the crowd started giggling at.
So far she's having her best debate performance
today,
ever.
Yeah.
In a very beautiful hotel down the street, known as
Made with Chinese steel.
But I will tell you, watching ad after ad after ad, false ad, all paid for by your friends on Wall Street that gave so much money because they know you're going to protect them. And frankly, you should have changed the laws.
Trump,
if you don't like what I did, you should have changed the laws.
Mr. Trump, I want to ask you about one last
What
question
a
in
fucking
this
asshole,
topic.
man. Yeah.
You have been warning at rallies recently that this election
I love it how
rigged
Buffett called him on his shit
Hillary Clinton
and released his
process
taxes
of trying to steal it
after that last debate.
Yeah.
Your running mate, Governor Pence, pledged on Sunday that he and you, his words, will absolutely accept the result of this election. Today, your daughter Ivanka said the same thing. I want to ask you here on the stage
See how he perked
tonight,
up just when hearing her
do
name?
you make the same commitment that you will absolutely, sir, that you will absolutely accept the result of this election?
I will look at it at the time.
No, fuck you.
What I've seen is so bad. First of all, the media.
You are a
is
piece
so
of fucking
dishonest
shit.
and so corrupt, and the pile-on is so amazing. The New York Times actually wrote an article about it that they don't even care. It's so dishonest, and they've poisoned the minds.
Wasn't there
of
a
the
square
voters,
for Pence quitting the
them,
ticket during the debate?
Yes, there is. I think they're going to see through it. We'll find out on November 8th, but I think they're going to see through it.
But sir,
excuse me, Chris, if you look at your voter rolls, you will see
that is the cornerstone of our democracy, is the peaceful transfer of power.
This is coming from Pew Report and other places. Millions
I would expect nothing less from somebody who worships fucking
shouldn't
Putin.
be registered to vote.
And
so
I wouldn't
let me just give you
put it
one
past
other
his
thing.
supporters
So I talk
either.
about the corrupt media. I talk about the millions of people. Tell you one other thing. She shouldn't be allowed to run.
Why?
She's guilty of a very, very serious crime.
It was like he was answering your
question. To run. And just in that respect, I say
he is going
rigged
down in flames in this.
Tris, she should never have been allowed to run for the presidency based on what she did with emails and so many other things.
But, sir, there is a tradition in this country. In fact, one of the prides of this country is the peaceful transition of power, and that no matter how hard fought a campaign is, that at the end of the campaign,
have you watched this?
The loser concedes to the winner.
No, we're watching it pretty much live-ish.
Or the winner, but that the loser concedes to the winner, and that the country comes together.
How do you and Chris Wallace agree?
Are you saying you're not?
He's not.
It's rigged, I tells you.
I'll keep you in suspense.
Well, Chris, let me respond to that because that's horrifying. You know, every time
it is
Donald
horrifying.
Things are not going in his direction. He claims
she seems like a real human tonight. It's
him.
nice.
The FBI conducted
really
a year-long investigation into my
Yeah.
emails. They concluded there was no case. He said the FBI was rigged. He lost the Iowa caucus. He lost the Wisconsin primary. He said the Republican primary was rigged against him. Then
because
Trump
he's used
University
to getting everything
gets
he
sued for
wants.
fraud and racketeering. He claims the
I love
court
how
system and the federal judge is
he
rigged
quotes
against
the
him.
media as proof.
There was even a time
The media
when
says that the media is piling on.
an Emmy for his TV program
What?
3 years in a row, and he started tweeting that the Emmys were rigged against
Should have gotten it.
This is how Donald thinks. And it's funny.
This is why.
Really
Oh my
troubling.
God! This is why I love this election season. It's just so fucking funny.
We've been
I
around
wanted
for
an Emmy.
240 years. We've had free and fair
he's the
elections.
biggest asshole.
We've accepted
I know
the outcomes
people
when
are
we may
sick
not
and
have
tired
liked them.
of this election.
And that is what
I'm
must
not
be
because it's
expected
so
of
goddamn
anyone
funny.
standing on a debate
Shit like
stage
that.
during a general election.
It's still too
President
close for me to
Obama
be
said the other day, when you're
in that
whining
position.
before the game is even finished, it just shows you're not up to doing the job.
What did she say there? Let me back that up.
Yeah, let's go back a little bit because I think she's on a. She looks like she's
on
a roll.
Of anyone standing on a debate stage during a general election. You know, President Obama said the other day, when you're whining before the game is even finished, it just shows you're not up to doing the job. And let's be clear about what he is saying and what that means. He is denigrating. He's talking down our democracy. And I, for one, am appalled that somebody who is
and he's
the
preloading
nominee of one of our
excuses
two
for
major
why he will
parties
lose.
would take that kind of position.
I think
Very
what
well
the
done.
FBI did and what the Department of Justice did,
She's crushing
including
him.
meeting with her husband, the Attorney General, in the back of an airplane on the tarmac in Arizona. I think it's disgraceful. I think it's a
The
disgrace.
Attorney General has nothing to do with the FBI.
No, right back to insults and schoolyard bully
any good for
techniques.
anyone. Let's please continue the debate and let's move on to the subject of foreign hotspots.
But she's
The Iraqi
properly
offensive
roasting
to
him.
take back
Oh, yeah.
Mosul has begun.
This is bad.
If they are successful in pushing ISIS out of that city and out of all of Iraq,
How far
the
into it
question
are we?
then becomes
Like
what happens
halfway.
the day after, and that's
We are 110 into the debate.
Wow.
ends up, whoever of you ends up as
Jesus.
president is going to have to confront. Will you put U.S. troops into that vacuum to make sure that ISIS doesn't come back or isn't replaced by something even worse? Secretary Clinton, you go first in this segment. You have
Classic
2 minutes.
Republican. Even worse than
I am
ISIS.
encouraged that there is an effort led by the Iraqi army, supported by Kurdish forces, and also given the help and advice from the number of special forces and other Americans on the ground. But I will not support putting American soldiers into Iraq as an occupying force.
Agreed.
I don't think that is in our interest, and I don't think that would be smart to do. In fact, Chris, I think that would be a big red flag waving for ISIS to reconstitute itself. The goal here is to
let
take
Iraq
back
stand
Mosul.
on their own.
It's going to be a hard fight. I've got no illusions about that. And then continue
provide
to
them the
press
support and
into
training they need, and
Syria
so they
to
can
begin
be
to
strong
take
on their
back
own.
and move on Raqqa, which is the ISIS headquarters.
That's the one I was talking about earlier,
I am
Raqqa.
hopeful that the hard work that
That's the one
American
who just
military
fell.
advisors
We
have
just
done will
took
pay
Raqqa
off,
back.
and that
Oh, that was okay.
we will see,
I think we took Raqqa back.
a really successful
I might be
military
wrong.
operation.
I might be remembering
But
that.
we know we've got lots of work to do. Syria will remain
A lot of those cities sound the same, so that's what I'm trying to
of
remember.
terrorism as long as the civil war aided and abetted by the Iranians and the Russians continue. So I have said, look, we need to keep our eye on ISIS. That's why I want to have an intelligence surge that protects us here at home, why we have to go after them from the air, on the ground, online, why we have to make sure here at home we don't let terrorists buy weapons. If you're too dangerous to fly, you're too dangerous to buy a gun.
Yes.
And I'm going to continue to push for a no-fly zone and safe havens within Syria, not only to help protect the Syrians and prevent the constant outflow of refugees, but to frankly gain some leverage on both the Syrian government and the Russians so that perhaps we can have the kind of serious negotiation necessary to bring the conflict to an end and go forward on a political track.
Mr. Trump, same question. If we are able to push ISIS out of Mosul and out of Iraq, would you be willing to put U.S. troops in there to prevent their return or something else?
Let me tell you, Mosul's so sad. We had Mosul. But when she left, when she took everybody out, we lost Mosul. Now we're fighting again to get Mosul.
So because
I'm crossing off the misogyny square. I don't even care.
This
is bullshit.
They felt were in Mosul. About 3 months ago, I started reading that they want to get the leaders, and they're going to attack Mosul. Whatever happened to the element of surprise?
Oh, fuck. Not this again.
We announced we're going after Mosul. I've been reading about going after Mosul now for about, how long is it, Hillary? 3 months? Ooh. These people have all left. They've all left.
Such an asshole.
Well, then that should make the job that much easier.
Yeah. Then
Douglas,
what's the problem?
MacArthur, George Patton, spinning in their graves when they
that's
see the
fucking
stupidity
bullshit.
of our country. So we're now fighting for
If they've
Mosul.
all left,
We had
honestly, if they've all left, that should make the job
Now we're
that
going
much
into
easier,
Denver.
right?
We
But you know what
announced
the big
major
winner
attacks
Mosul's
in
gonna be
World War
after we
II,
eventually
too.
get it. And the only reason they did it is because she's running for the office of president. And they want to look tough. They want to look good. He violated.
Yeah,
the
fuck all
red
those
line in the
innocent
sand.
non-combatants who
And he
may
made
be
so
in the
many
area
mistakes.
that we're
Yeah.
trying to
Mistakes.
provide
That's
advance
why we
warning
have
that
the
you
great
should get the fuck
migration.
out of there.
Exactly.
She wanted to look good for
And
the
we've
election.
done that
So
in
they're going
wars all the
But
time.
who's going to
Yeah.
get Mosul, really? We'll take Mosul eventually. By
It's
the
the
way,
humanitarian
if you look at
thing to
what's
do.
happening, much tougher than they thought. Much, much tougher, much more dangerous, going to be more deaths than they thought. But the leaders that we wanted to get are all gone because they're smart. They said, what do we need this for? So Mosul is going to be a wonderful thing, and Iran should write us a letter of thank you, just like the really stupid, the stupidest deal of all time. A deal that's going to give Iran absolutely nuclear weapons. Iran should write us yet another letter saying thank you very much. Because Iran, as I said many years ago, Iran is taking over Iraq, something they've wanted to do forever, but we've made it so easy for them. So we're now going to take Mosul, and you know who's going to be the beneficiary? Iran. Boy, are they making, I mean, they are outsmarting. Look, you're not there. You might be involved
She gave
in that
such
decision,
intelligent,
but you were
well
there
thought
when
out,
you took
well worded,
everybody out of
coherent
Mosul and
answers.
out of
He
Iraq.
can't finish a
You
fucking
shouldn't have been in
sentence.
Iraq.
No.
But you did
And
vote
it's
for it.
and it's not
You
going to
shouldn't
cost
have
him
been in
any
Iraq.
poll
But
numbers.
once
That's
you
the
were in
thing.
Iraq, you
Not
should have
much.
never
This
left
is the
Iraq.
perfect.
The
This
point
is the
is,
perfect
the big winner is going to
example
be
of the
Iran.
division in this country.
Well,
Yeah.
You know,
between the fucking
once again,
retarded, racist
Donald
assholes
is implying that he
and
didn't
the rest of
support
us.
the invasion of Iraq. I said it was a mistake. I've said that years ago. He has consistently denied what is a very clear fact that before the invasion he supported it.
No, I didn't.
You know, I just want everybody to go Google it. Google Donald Trump
Yep,
Iraq,
there you go.
and you will see the dozens of sources which
There you go.
verify that he was for the invasion of Iraq.
Wrong.
And you can actually hear the audio of him
I love it.
saying
He's
that.
sets it up like 3 seconds in advance. He
because
purses his lips into the little butthole.
The truth
just
about
waiting.
that position. I guess he believes it makes him look better now.
But of course, half of his supporters don't have Google.
I did vote for it. But what's really important here is to understand.
Or they don't know how to fucking read anyway.
They don't.
Mosul is a Sunni city. Mosul is on the border
or
of
they
Syria.
Just claim it's
and
liberal
yes,
media, so it can't be trusted.
And just like we went after bin Laden while you were doing Celebrity Apprentice, and we brought him to justice. We need to go after the leadership, but we need to get rid of them, get rid of their fighters. They're estimated several thousand fighters in Mosul. They've been digging underground. They've been prepared to defend. It's going to be tough fighting, but I think we can take back Mosul, and then we can move on into Syria and take back Raqqa. This is what we have to do. I'm just amazed that he seems to think that the Iraqi government and our allies and everybody else launched the attack on Mosul to help me in this election.
But we also took a few $1 million out of the pockets of ISIS in the process.
Chris, we don't gain anything.
He has all the
Iran is taking over Iraq.
Secretary Clinton.
Iran is taking over Iraq. We don't gain
Secretary Clinton.
We would have gained if they did it by surprise.
Wait. Secretary Clinton, it's an open discussion. Secretary,
you need to stop.
When he interrupts you, you have to stop.
Unfit.
Let's see if he's interrupted Trump ever.
One that's unfit.
If he ever will.
WikiLeaks.
That's
you are the one that's unfit, not me. It's you.
Things about you, and boy, was he right. He said some beauties. And Bernie Sanders, he said you have bad judgment. You do. And if you think that going into Mosul, after we let the world know we're going in, and all of the people that we really wanted, the leaders, they're all gone. If you think that was good, then you do. Now, John Podesta said you have terrible instincts. Bernie Sanders said you have bad judgment. I agree with both.
Well, you should ask Bernie Sanders who he's supporting for president.
Yeah, ask Bernie Sanders what he thinks about you, you fuckwit.
Yeah. You are the most dangerous person to run for president in the modern history of America.
I'm sure Bernie.
Yes.
I'm sure Bernie Sanders really appreciates Trump's support of him, endorsement of his views. I'm sure he's sitting there with the warm fuzzies.
Of Aleppo, and I want to follow up on that because you said several things in that debate which were not true, sir. You said that Aleppo has basically fallen.
That was awesome. You said several things that were not true. I'm going to back that up because I liked hearing Chris Wallace say that.
About the situation in the Syrian city of Aleppo. And I want to follow up on that because you said several things in that debate which were not true, sir. You said that Aleppo has basically fallen. In fact, there are.
It's a catastrophe.
It is a catastrophe.
Have you seen it? Have you seen it?
Well, I guess your debate has fallen.
Have you been there? Have you walked the streets? I have. I've walked the streets of Aleppo.
Still living there and being slaughtered.
That's right.
You also
and they are being slaughtered because of bad decisions.
If I may just finish here. And you also said
did you see her look when he pointed
Syria
at her?
And Russia are busy.
You got to go back.
Fighting ISIS.
He said because of bad decisions and pointed over.
They are being
Watch Hillary.
Yes. Because of bad decisions.
If I may just finish here.
Her eyes get all wide.
Oh yeah.
Raises his eyebrow.
What the fuck is he talking about?
And shelling eastern Aleppo.
That was amazing.
And they just announced a humanitarian pause, in effect, admitting that they have been bombing and shelling Aleppo. Would you like to clear that up, sir?
Well, Aleppo is a disaster. It's a humanitarian nightmare. But it has fallen from any standpoint. I mean, what do you need? A document?
Is that one of those superheroes I don't know about?
It is so sad.
Yes, it's a DC hero. That's probably why not many people know about
Zack Snyder.
What's happened is
humanitarian disaster.
It turned out to be a lot tougher than she thought. And now she's going to say, "Oh, he loves Assad." He's just much tougher and much smarter than her and Obama.
Oh, God.
And everyone thought he was gone 2 years ago, 3 years ago. He aligned with Russia. He now also aligned with Iran, who we made very powerful. We gave them $150 billion back.
Of their
we give
money.
them $1.7 billion in cash. I mean, cash, bundles of cash as big as this stage. We gave them $1.7 billion. Now, they have aligned. He has aligned.
I've seen that kind of money leaving before.
They don't want ISIS, but they have other things because we're backing rebels. we don't know who the rebels are. We're giving them lots of money,
do.
lots of
How are we backing them if we don't know who they are?
The rebels are. And
we just PayPal them.
And it's not going to happen
we're just lobbing weapons out in the desert for whoever finds them.
You might end up with as bad as Assad is, and he's a bad guy. But you may very well end up with worse than Assad. If she didn't
end up with Trump,
we'd be in much better shape. And this is what's caused the Great Migration, where she's taking in tens of thousands of Syrian refugees.
Syrian people are migrating.
In many cases, not probably, who are definitely, in many cases, ISIS aligned. And we now have them in our country.
So why don't they stay there and fight with ISIS?
This is going to be the great Trojan horse. And wait till you see.
Did you see Clinton's face during that? Watch. She looks down and then she just slowly looks up at the camera like, I can't fucking believe this.
She's doing Jim Halpert again.
He is all over the map here. He is.
By the way,
he's throwing out every fucking ISIS, Iran, Trojan horses, and he's making
money leaving.
He's making no coherent point.
And the Great Migration is the title for a documentary about the wildebeest savanna migration. It's actually really good, but still, that doesn't apply to Syrian humans.
No.
Humans.
It might apply to M&Ms, though. Or Skittles.
Watch her face during this little bit that he says here.
Tirade.
Cases, not probably, who are definitely, in many cases, ISIS aligned, and we now have them in our country. And wait till you see what this is going to be. And wait till you see what
she totally Jim Halpert did that again.
Lots of luck, Hillary. Thanks a lot for doing a great job.
She's like, what the fuck? How am I competing against this asshole?
Yeah. A no-fly
she
zone
has to be
try to protect the people of Aleppo and to stop the killing there. President Obama has refused to do that because he fears it's going to draw us closer or deeper into the conflict. And General Joseph Dunford, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, says, you impose a no-fly zone, chances are you're going to get into a war.
Yep.
I
agree. I don't at all think a no-fly zone is a good idea.
If you impose a no-fly zone, first of all, how do you respond to their concerns? Secondly, if you impose a no-fly zone,
what if it's violated?
Plane violates that, does President Clinton shoot that plane down?
Yeah, that's boots on the ground.
I think a no-fly zone could save lives and could hasten the end of the conflict. I am well aware.
And Russia just recently installed surface-to-air missiles to shoot down fucking planes in the area. They're not going to shoot down ISIS planes. ISIS doesn't have any fucking planes.
Nope. This would take a lot of negotiation.
They're not shooting down their own planes. They're preparing for something else.
Turkey and the U.S.
Purpose here was to provide
and they've already been buzzing our planes.
Yeah. We've had millions of people leave Syria. And those millions of people
they watch Top Gun too much.
Inside Syria who've been dislocated. So I think we could strike a deal and make it very clear to the Russians and the Syrians that this was something that we believed was in the best interests of the people on the ground in Syria. It would help us with our fight against ISIS. But I want to respond to what Donald said about refugees. He's made these claims repeatedly. I am not going to let anyone into this country who is not.
I think if we could strike a deal with Russia where we both agree that this is a no-fly zone.
Slam the door on women and
neither
children.
one of us is going to be flying in this area. That's one thing. But the U.S. acting unilaterally and saying nobody can fly here, that's a really bad idea.
Over area we don't have any control over.
Thorough vetting. That does not solve our internal challenges with ISIS and our need to stop radicalization, to work with American Muslim communities who are on the front lines to identify and prevent attacks. In fact, the killer of the dozens of people at the nightclub in Orlando, the Pulse nightclub, was born in Queens, the same place Donald was born. So let's be clear about what the threat is and how we are best going to be able to meet it. And yes, some of that threat emanates from over in Syria and Iraq, and we've got to keep fighting, and I will defeat ISIS. And some of it is we have to up our game and be much smarter here.
I want to get into our final segment.
But I just have to, it's so ridiculous what she will defeat ISIS. We should have never let ISIS happen in the first place. And right now they're in 32 countries.
Thanks,
Bush.
1
second. They had a ceasefire 3 weeks ago.
They started in 2004.
United States, Russia, Syria.
Yeah.
And during the ceasefire, Russia took over vast swatches of land, And then they said
under a different name, of course, in 2004.
Did he say swatch?
Swatches?
Did he mean swaths?
They are outplayed. Now, she wasn't
vast swaths of land.
He probably meant.
He said swatches.
Is so outplayed.
The 80 swatch, right?
And by the way,
is it not called a swatch of land?
Nobody can believe.
Well, it's called a swath of land.
Our leadership is.
Mr. Trump, Secretary Clinton, you need to move on to our
They don't even
final
call themselves
segment, and
ISIS
that is the
anymore.
national debt, which has not been discussed
They dropped
until tonight.
Let's have Dan settle
Iraq
this.
part of
Our
it.
national debt as a share of the
Hold on,
economy,
pause
our
this real
GDP,
quick.
is now 70.
So is there such a thing as a swatch of land?
Donald Trump just said ISIS has taken over swatches of land.
There is such a thing as a swatch.
Is there?
Yeah.
I thought he meant
As opposed to
swath. A swath of
Yeah.
because a swatch is the 80s designer watches.
Well, but a swatch
is also
also a piece of cloth.
Yeah, like a display. Like you go to the store, you're like, oh, I like that color, that pattern. With all the other ones there, it's a swatch.
Can we Google?
I think it can be either.
Can we Google?
There's a swath or a swatch. Sure, let's Google.
I think a swatch is a small section. Like, he took over, 2 square feet.
You look up swath, I'll look up swatch.
A swath is a large area, like a swath, like you take out of the whole area
like a
forest.
strip.
Yeah.
It's also what we use to secure arm injuries, you sling it and swath it.
So Google says that swath or swatch as a noun is a small sample of fabric intended to demonstrate the look of a larger piece.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Swath is a row or line of grass, grain, or other crops as it lies when mowed or reaped. A broad strip of or area of something.
Okay.
Vast swaths of countryside.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And swatch also says a sample of paint, makeup, etc. applied to a surface or one's skin to test or demonstrate the color. Also, a patch or area of a material or surface.
Okay.
So
loosely.
It works.
I
think swath would be better, but
it would have been a better word
swatch
choice for
still
sure.
works.
Yeah.
But if they took out a large swatch,
Okay.
a normal swatch is 1 square inch.
Yeah.
He took out a 5 square inch swatch.
You guys are probably too young, but swatch used to be a really fucking fancy watch, man.
That's what Matt was saying.
That's how I
Okay.
Jesus.
I had to go pee, man. I missed it.
I told you right when you first walked in.
That was a.
I said it was an 80s designer watch.
I wasn't paying attention.
So
I was getting my
assuming
headphones on again.
You're assuming he actually listens to you.
I guess so. That's my first mistake.
I was getting my headphones on. You guys were.
he has to do the recaps to really understand what the hell you're saying.
Why am I fighting to be old?
I have to hear it at least twice, man.
We did get listener feedback that says Dan doesn't listen to us. He takes over the entire show.
It's true. What did you say? I just want to make sure that I'm agreeing with something that I ordinarily would agree with.
I said a duck pooped in the pot. I don't know what that
Did
means.
we really get feedback about that?
Yeah.
Well,
it wasn't about me.
Sort of.
It wasn't about me taking over the show.
It was a ranty complaint. To someone that doesn't like Dan, I think.
Yeah. It was somebody who apparently had a huge crush on me. I didn't know about it.
Shot him down.
Was very, very upset that I would not allow them space on my Facebook timeline anymore as a forum for their bullshit to shit all over me. So.
I was going to say, who doesn't like Dan?
There's lots of people who don't like me.
I know, but still,
many, many, many people.
Well, they're retarded.
And the people who don't like me, I'm pretty glad that they don't like me because I don't want to do anything. I don't want to have anything to do with them, really.
It's a huge number.
Dan is the best.
Oh, thanks.
And Ryan's the best too. And
just after World War II. But the nonpartisan
You're all the best.
You're all the best.
A responsible federal budget says Secretary Clinton, under your plan, debt would rise to 86% of GDP over the next 10 years. Mr. Trump, under your plan, they say it would rise to 105% of GDP over the next 10 years. Question is, why are both of you ignoring this problem? Mr. Trump, you go first.
Well, I say they're wrong because I'm going to create tremendous jobs. And
I say they're wrong. They're just geeks who do accounting and shit. They're wrong.
But with Hillary's plan, they're right.
Which plan makes you feel better? That's what should matter.
4%, and I actually think we can go higher than 4%. I think you can go to 5 or 6%. And if we do you don't have to bother asking your question because we have a tremendous machine. We will have created a
Don't bother asking any questions tonight. I'm just going to blather.
Once again.
Say shit.
To do that, we're taking back jobs. We're not going to let our companies be raided by other countries where we lose all our jobs. We don't make our product.
They're not raided by other countries.
That's very sad.
We're sending them.
Jesus Christ.
The kind of a country that we were from the standpoint of industry, we used to be there. We've given it up. We've become very
progressed.
Sloppy.
We've
had
progressed.
people
Yeah,
that are
we're
political
not
hacks.
We're not a
making the biggest
manufacturing
deals in the world,
country
bigger than
anymore.
Yeah, we're
companies. You take
service-based.
these big companies. These trade deals are far bigger than these companies. And yet we don't use our great leaders, many of whom back me and many of whom back Hillary, I must say.
Don't bother asking me questions.
We don't use those people.
I mean,
Those are the
literally,
people.
Mike Wallace didn't need to ask him a single question all night. Just give him random 2 minutes to just, because that's all he's doing anyway.
We use people.
Just give him 2 minutes to spout because he's not answering a fucking question.
No.
And they're dealing with China and people that are very much smarter than they are. So we have to use our great people. But with that being said, we will create an economic machine, the likes of which we haven't seen in many decades. And people, Chris, will again go back to work and they'll make a lot of money and we'll have companies that will grow and expand and start from new.
Secretary Clinton.
Well, first,
grow and expand and start from new.
Grow and expand and start from new. How does that work?
How does that work?
Well, if it's new and it gets big, of course it's going to expand because it started from 0 and went to 2.
Rushes and says, before you and President Obama were there, I think it's important to recognize that he has been criticizing our government for decades. Back in 1987, he took out a $100,000 ad in the New York Times during the time when President Reagan was president and basically said exactly what he just said now, that we were the laughing stock of the world. He was criticizing President Reagan. This is the way Donald thinks about himself, puts himself into, the middle and says, I alone can fix it, as he said on the convention stage. But if you look at the debt, which is the issue you asked about,
because he has all the best words and all the best plans.
I pay for everything I'm proposing. I do not add a penny to the national debt. I take that very seriously because I do think it's one of the issues we've got to come to grips with. So when I talk about how we're going to pay for education, how we're going to invest in infrastructure, how we're going to get the cost of prescription drugs down, and a lot of the other issues that people talk to me about all the time, I've made it very clear we are going where the money is. We are going to ask the wealthy and corporations to pay their fair share. And there is no evidence whatsoever that that will slow down or diminish our growth. In fact, I think just the opposite. We'll have what economists call middle out growth. We've got to get back to rebuilding the middle class, the families of America. That's where growth will come from. That's why I want to invest in you. I want to invest in your family. And I think that's the smartest way to grow the economy, to make the economy fairer. And we just have a big disagreement about this. It may be because of our experiences. He started off with his dad as a millionaire. I started off with my dad as a small businessman.
Yep, time for everyone to interrupt.
I think it's a
getting
difference
inconvenient.
that affects how we see the world and what we want to do with the economy.
Yep.
Time.
Thank you, Hillary. Could I just respond?
Well, no.
Because
sir,
I
because
did
we're running out of
disagree with
time.
Ronald Reagan very strongly on trade. I disagreed with him. We should have been much tougher.
He's going to let him do it anyway.
I've been waiting for years.
We're out of time, but go ahead and speak your mind,
frankly,
Donald.
Now we're going to do it right.
All right.
Hillary's getting a lot smoother, though. She started out pretty rocky, even in this one. Really robotic.
Entitlements, which is 60%.
Okay. She seems a lot warmer during this debate. She's a lot more personable.
Responsible federal budget has looked at both of your plans.
A little more improvisational. Like she knows what she's talking about, and she's just bringing it out to kill him on it, rather than having all these planned responses.
Yeah, it's not that she has all of these canned one-liners that she's just hoping to drop in and waiting for that moment. She's acting much more organically in this.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Good word, yeah.
And that's what experience gives you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's
and prep. Well, but it doesn't give Trump that. I mean, he's been this way since 1982.
I'm saying experience in politics, experience in diplomacy.
Right.
This is, people criticize the career politicians, all that. It's a job. It's a profession like any other. And it takes a certain amount of experience to do it, and she's experienced, and she's demonstrating that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
What we want to do with the economy.
Time.
Thank you, Hillary. Could I just respond?
Well, no.
Because
Sorry,
I did disagree with Ronald Reagan very strongly on trade. I disagreed with him. We should have been much tougher on trade even then. I've been waiting for years. Nobody does it right. And frankly, now we're going to do it right.
All right. The one last area I want to
get into.
I've been waiting years.
I've been taking advantage of it the whole time.
But
I've been waiting years to change it, so I can't take advantage of it anymore.
Of all federal spending. Now, the Committee for Federal Responsible Federal Budget 67%. Has looked at both of your plans, and they say neither of you has a serious plan that is going to solve the fact that Medicare is going to run out of money in the 2020s, Social Security is going to run out of money in the 2030s, and at that time, recipients are going to take huge cuts in their benefits. So, in effect, the final question I want to ask you in this regard is, and let me start with you, Mr. Trump.
The final question.
President Trump make a deal to save Medicare and Social Security that included both tax increases and benefit cuts, in effect, a grand bargain on entitlements?
I'm cutting taxes. We're going to grow the economy. It's going to grow at a record rate.
But that's not going to help on entitlements.
No,
it's going to totally help you. And one thing we have
no more
to
money
do,
going to him if you're cutting them.
And replace the disaster known as Obamacare.
With what?
It's destroying our country. It's destroying our businesses, our small business, and our big businesses. We have to repeal and replace Obamacare. You take a look at the kind of numbers that will cost us in the year 17. It is a disaster.
The year 17.
If we don't repeal and replace, now it's probably going to die of its own weight. But Obamacare has to go. The premiums are going up 60, 70, 80%. Next year, they're going to go up.
No, they're not.
No, they're not.
That's a fucking lie.
I'm really glad that the premiums have started. At least the people
that is
see
a
what's happening.
bald-faced fucking lie.
As I said at the beginning, 52% of what he says is entirely made up.
He just throws out numbers.
At the most expensive
He's a bullshitter.
price. We have to repeal and replace Obamacare.
And Secretary Clinton, same question, because at this point, Social Security and
now
Medicare are going to run out. The trust funds are going to run out of money. Will you, as president, will you consider?
I think she's going to go back on Obamacare, though, too.
Bargain, a deal that includes both tax
Talk about
increases
Obamacare as well,
and benefit
though.
cuts to try to save both programs.
Well, Chris, I am on record as saying that we need to put more money into the Social Security Trust Fund. That's part of my commitment to raise taxes on the wealthy. My Social Security payroll contribution will go up, as will Donald's, assuming he can't figure out how to get out of it. But what we want to do is to replenish the Social Security Trust Fund by making sure
there's your misogyny square.
Resources, and that will come from
I already crossed it off.
Either raising the cap and or finding
I grabbed
other
him by
ways
the pussy.
To get more money into
I figured that counted.
Cut benefits. I want to enhance benefits for low-income workers and for women who have been disadvantaged by the current Social Security system. But what Donald is proposing with these massive tax cuts will result in a $20 trillion additional national debt. That will have dire consequences for Social Security and Medicare. And I'll say something about the Affordable Care Act, which he wants to repeal. The Affordable Care Act extended the solvency of the Medicare Trust Fund. So if he repeals it, our Medicare problem gets worse. What we need to do is go after the long-term health care drivers.
Did you see the look on his face when he said that?
Increase value, emphasize wellness. I have a plan for doing that, and I think that we will be able to get entitlement spending under control with more resources and smarter decisions.
This is the final time, probably to both of your delight, that you're going to be on the stage together in this campaign. I would like to end it on a positive note. You had not agreed to closing statements, but it seems to me in a funny way that might make it more interesting because you haven't prepared closing statements.
You haven't agreed, so I'm going to fucking make you do it anyway.
Yeah.
This is kind of in Donald's wheelhouse because he improvises his whole thing.
People why they should elect you to be the next president. This is another new mini segment. Secretary Clinton.
Start with Hillary, of course.
Well,
put her on the
like
spot.
To,
give Donald time to think.
Watching tonight.
He needs
that
all
I'm
the time
reaching
he can
out
get,
to all
really.
Americans, Democrats, Republicans, and Independents, because we need everybody to help make our country what it should be, to grow the economy, to make it fairer, to make it work for everyone. We need your talents, your skills, your commitment, your energy, your ambition. You know, I've been privileged to see the presidency up close, and I know the awesome responsibility of protecting our country and the incredible opportunity of working to try to make life better for all of you. I have made the cause of children and families really my life's work. That's what my mission will be in the presidency. I will stand up for families against powerful interests, against corporations. I will do everything that I can to make sure that you have good jobs with rising incomes, that your kids have good educations from preschool through college. I hope you will give me a chance to serve as your president.
Secretary Clinton, thank you. Mr. Trump.
Was good.
She's raising the money from the people she wants to control. Doesn't work that way. When I started this campaign, I started it very strongly. It's called Make America Great Again. We're going to make America great. We have a depleted military. It has to be helped.
No, we
don't. It has to be fixed. We have the greatest people on earth in our military. We don't take care of our veterans. We take care of illegal immigrants, people that come into the country illegally, better than we take care of our vets.
Yeah,
that
thanks to the Republicans.
Our policemen and women are disrespected. We need law and order, but we
By
need
you,
justice
fucko.
too. Our inner cities are a disaster. You get shot walking to the store. They have no education. They have no jobs. I will do more for African Americans and Latinos than she can ever do in 10 lifetimes.
She's already done more than you've done in your entire miserable fucking life.
Latinos. But they get the vote, and then they come back. They say, we'll see you in 4 years. We are going to make America strong again, and we are going to make America great again, and it has to start now. We cannot take 4 more years of Barack Obama, and that's what you get when you get her.
Thank you, Bob. Can you pause it?
I would happily take 4 more years of Barack Obama with her.
Yeah.
You hear this recurring argument that, you know, the two of them are identical, that they're both the exact same thing.
Who, Obama and Hillary?
No. Yeah. Trump and Hillary.
Oh, okay.
From a lot of the Bernie, the sour Bernie supporters and the millennials and a whole bunch of people.
The disenchanted,
disenfranchised, all that stuff. Setting aside this entire debate, that closing statement, the difference between their two philosophies and ideas and perspectives on this country epitomizes the dichotomy between the two. They are categorically different. She was about pulling everyone together, everyone coming together to help and to work together in the betterment of the country. And he was about how fucking awful everything fucking is, and I'm going to come in and fix it all for you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean,
Republican and Democrat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's much more an authoritarian.
Yeah. I'm going to be very interested to watch just that end clip again later on, because I think that really epitomizes the entire fucking debate.
But also for those people that were very big Bernie Sanders fans and are disappointed that he's not in and don't want to vote for Hillary now, don't forget that Bernie Sanders is still going to be in there, helping get laws passed, and also helped write the platform for which he is going to try to make them stick to for the Democratic Party if Hillary's elected, which is a very progressive platform to try to get education and healthcare and everything else back to the people.
And between these two candidates, who we know one of them is going to be president, who do you think Bernie Sanders is going to work more closely with to get change done?
No doubt.
Or who will work closely with him?
And my comments were not intended to criticize the Bernie supporters or anything like that. These are the comments they've made that, I see it time and again. But what she had to say is not a conservative idea. It's not the Republican platform.
Not anymore.
It's not
modern.
Not anymore. No, the Lincoln. Yeah, it's the.
Well, I don't know. You don't even have to, just anything pre-Reagan.
Well, I mean, you'd have to go back.
Even Reagan. I mean, when you talk about immigration and stuff, was vastly different from what you see from conservatives today.
Yeah. But you really have to go back to like Teddy Roosevelt and Lincoln and people like that to get really progressive.
When you get progressive,
to get progressive Republicans.
Yeah.
You kind of have to go back that far. Although, I mean, even Nixon was a little bit more progressive than modern day. But yeah, this is not, Clinton is not a conservative. She is not the Republican platform. No. So
yeah,
that was just interesting to me.
Yeah.
Hold on just a moment, folks. Secretary Clinton, Mr. Trump, I want to thank you both for participating in all three of these debates. That brings to an end this year's debate sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates. We want to thank the University of Nevada, Las Vegas and its students for having us. Now the decision is up to you. While millions have already voted, Election Day, November 8th, is just 20 days away. One thing everyone here can agree on, we hope you will go vote. It is one of the honors and obligations of living in this great country. Thank you and good night.
I got my mail-in ballot in the mail today.
I received mine
the weightiest
last week,
discussion,
I believe.
I got mine a few days ago.
Yeah. I'm excited to fill it out. I haven't filled it out yet because I still need to research judge retention.
Oh, the judges. Oh, fuck. Yeah, that's the biggest pain in the ass.
Yeah,
all I know is the judge that I had to see when I had to go to court for a while was a pretty cool judge. I liked him.
Yeah. Well, I received a link from a friend on Facebook who said, go here and you can look at the judge's stuff. So I just need to find some time to do that before I fill out my ballot and mail it in.
Well, I'm looking forward to helping fix the election, air quotes.
Rig it, you mean?
Rig the election by submitting my ballot.
Actively participating in it?
Because apparently that's what a rigged election is.
Well, how do we know you filled it out and a dead person didn't?
How do we know I'm alive?
True
didn't. Did I get it right that time?
That was close, yes. Didn't.
I actually researched the voter fraud thing a while back, and what I found in it was
bullshit.
What?
Go ahead.
The talking point was that Democrats are the one who do all the voter fraud and all that kind of stuff, and there's these many people, and they came out to be like, okay, well, there's only been like 4 people found for voter fraud in the last 20 years for a presidential election. And the guy that had the highest amount of voter fraud wasn't a presidential election. It was a state election in Wisconsin, voting Republican for the candidate 11 times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the largest amounts of voter fraud throughout history have been on the Republican side. Yeah.
They say only Democrats commit voter fraud. It's like, well, no, actually the highest has been Republican.
Well, then the GOP definitely shouldn't bring that up anymore.
Voter fraud, I mean, it's fixing an election. And voter fraud, it's not possible, not on a national scale. On local scales,
yes.
Yeah, you can have some small amount. But on a national scale, people think there's one election on November 28th. I know. No.
I knew what you're doing.
November 32nd. That there's one election. There isn't. There aren't even 51 elections. Counties and sometimes counties delegate to cities have each individual election. There are over 14,000 elections across this country, each with their own policies, each with their own rules, each with their own recount policies, each with different equipment and different ballots. There is no one way to fix an election. There are 14,000 ways. And even if you narrow it down to the few hundred that count, because only a few hundred, maybe a few thousand of those actually count, assuming you can even identify the couple of thousand that count, you still need to beat all those independent systems and checks and balances, and you have to beat all the poll watchers from both sides that are watching everything. You have to beat all of them too. It's incomprehensibly impossible. And every people who fix elections have come out and said it's impossible to do at a national scale. Who have gone to jail for like what you're talking about, fixing local elections.
Yeah. That's about the best that you can possibly hope for. If you're looking to actually rig an election, is a local small election.
And that's what a majority of them were. And the other big number, they say that the dead vote, it's like, no, this person shares a name with someone who's dead. So yes, you can find that guy's name in a death registry, but they share the same fucking name. Yeah. So the guy that voted is not dead. Yes, his father, who had the same name as him, is dead. And they might have lived at the same address. Yes, that guy is dead, but he has a son and he has the same name and the same address who's alive. And that's the guy who voted.
Mm-hmm. Although you said something earlier about his setting up for his defeat. He's saying the election is fixed and all that as it's a cop out.
Yeah, he's providing an excuse for why he will lose.
Right. And I actually saw a recent theory about that. Well, it's more than a theory. It was some of his internal staffers, on condition of anonymity, came out and said that's not actually the case. It's a specific strategy. And what they're trying to do, they're trying to reach out to the millennials and the Bernie supporters who are already distrustful of the system. And they're trying to foment that distrust and get them to either go third party or not vote at all. That they are specifically trying to get them to not vote by him doing that.
Well, I posted and tweeted earlier today that if you're a Trump supporter who thinks the election is rigged, I encourage you to not waste your time by voting for him.
Yeah.
But honestly, I mean, if that's the message that he is sending out as a candidate, that regardless of whether you vote for me or not, the election is rigged and I may lose, then don't waste your fucking time. Yeah. Don't go vote for this asshole.
Yeah.
Stay home. That would be better for everybody involved.
Yeah.
Or go on your polling day on the 28th.
And I followed that up with, but if you're going to vote for Donald Trump, follow his advice and do so on November 28th.
Well, I saw a thing today, a poll. I mean, it wasn't a poll. It was kind of a survey thing that like 25% of millennials say they would rather have an asteroid hit the earth and destroy humanity than to have to vote for Clinton or Trump.
That's a little extreme.
I mean, that's a little hyperbolic, isn't it? I mean, if you're that fucked up, just jump off a goddamn building.
I mean, take yourself out.
Just, I mean, if you're that fucking depressed about the presidential...
If you're that disillusioned with American politics, then just don't participate. Why bother?
Yeah. But to wipe out all of humanity because you don't want to choose between Trump or Clinton. I mean, what the fuck kind of...
I loved that Lewis Black bit on The Daily Show recently where he said that, this isn't like going to a movie and trying to decide which shitty movie that you're going to see. Because you're going to have to see the movie.
You're forced to see a movie.
You're forced to see a movie, and hopefully it doesn't end with Donald Trump nuking Wisconsin.
Especially Wisconsin.
I don't know, man. Some of the stories you've told.
Well, they're not my I mean, I didn't actually.
And the history of the state.
Well, there's a beautiful history to the state.
I would pick Florida than
Wisconsin.
There's a beautiful history.
Actually,
wait. There's cheese.
Yeah, cheese.
They make good cheese.
The Green Bay Packers. Oshkosh Bagosh.
Bart Starr.
I was gonna say the cheese saved it, but then you said Green Bay Packers.
Well, the Green Bay Packers are one of the oldest NFL teams, and they have been owned by the people the entire time.
Hello, Milwaukee's best.
Yeah,
I didn't
beer. Just think of beer.
That's true. Beer and cheese, fine, fair enough.
I didn't realize.
And the Packers are in the NFC, so I don't really care that much.
I didn't know that.
Florida first, Florida, then Texas.
I didn't know the Packers were still a thing. So
yeah,
I mean, I haven't heard about them in like 10 years. So.
They won the.
I think. No, you see, this is what I do because I don't follow sports.
I think they won the Super Bowl more recently than even 10 years ago.
I foment violence because I don't care about sports, so I take the opposing viewpoint.
Well, then how does this suit you? I'm going to call my friend Superman to take care of you. Is that better? Is that more realistic?
He's going to light your ass on fire with his laser vision, motherfucker. What are you going to do about that?
I don't really follow football either. I just like the Green Bay Packers. I've only watched one game all year so far.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, Rodgers is struggling right now.
Is he?
Yeah.
I haven't watched any pro games, but the Raiders seem to be doing fairly well this year.
Are they?
They lost to the Chiefs last week. They were ahead. They were at the top of their division, but they lost to the Chiefs last week.
Tell you what, though, the Chiefs are one of those teams that's not going to get a whole lot of attention, but they're going to be one of those sleeper teams that's right up in there in the AFC, and they're going to be picking teams,
getting all up
knocking
in the
them
AFC
out.
guts.
Yeah, they're going to. Raiders too, though. The Raiders are better than people are letting on right now.
They seem to be doing fairly well. I haven't been able to catch a game.
They're slowly starting to piece things together. I mean, I think they got a quarterback in place they can build around. They got a nice receiver. He's young, extremely talented. And their defense is coming in. I mean, Khalil Mack as linebacker.
They have one of the top-rated defenses.
Yeah.
So they're like I said, they're doing all right. I just haven't watched any of their games yet this year.
You should.
I'm just too busy.
You should. Patriots-Steelers this Sunday. Woo!
Oh my!
It's a big AFC matchup.
Is it the Chinese steel?
It is not it is not the Chinese steel. It's the Pittsburgh steel.
Okay.
Everybody in Pittsburgh, everybody in Pennsylvania should be fundamentally against Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But they're not.
No.
Good call.
Well, honestly, everyone in America should be.
That was actually a good call, a good tie-in.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Good.
I was listening to conservative talk radio local on my way here, Rod Arquette. And he was, I just heard a little bit about it, and he was talking about the upcoming debate.
He's the worst of the Arquettes, really.
Oh, he is. He is nausea. I don't know why I listened.
Who's the best?
Rosanna.
Rosanna?
Yeah.
Who's that?
Rosanna Arquette?
Rosanna Arquette?
I was thinking Patricia, David, Courtney.
Patricia. Well, yeah, okay. Patricia's at the top. I'll put her.
Is Rosanna her mother?
Courtney is.
Is that who you grew up with?
No, Patricia. I said Rosanna. I meant Patricia.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you're not.
She was
quite that old. Then you saved yourself.
He was asking some question though about something about the debate and talking about it, and he said something that just kind of stuck in my mind. He said, "Yeah, all right, she's very qualified. Yeah, she's experienced." And he said it, and the tone was just that. I'm not really.
But she's a woman.
I'm not exaggerating.
So all of that is automatically disqualified.
Right, just dismissive of all of the most important qualities.
Of the two main qualities that you'd want in a fucking leader of anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's very qualified. Yeah, she's experienced. And I could just see
she
him.
has a vagina.
God damn it. But you have to change it. So it's like, she has a vagina. You have to say it right. Yeah.
China.
And I could just see him doing air quotes as he was saying that. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
What are you
looking for?
What else do you want?
But Trump isn't a politician. Well, this debate illustrates why that's such a fucked up perspective.
Why would we want somebody who's not a politician to be a politician?
Yeah. I mean, that's
I don't fucking call a carpenter to come and fix my plumbing.
No.
Yeah, I was going to say, do we do that for any other job?
I don't ask my mechanic to cure my testicular cancer.
Grant, you have to. Dude, Grant?
I just.
But are you okay, man?
Call a plumber. That was honestly, that was the first organ. That was the first organ that came to mind when I was thinking about cancer.
Well, during the cruise, you did talk about having to play Jenga when you sit on the toilet. So.
That's not something I'm familiar with.
It's really a challenge sometimes.
You don't want to sit on your balls.
No. You don't want your balls marinating.
Oh,
yes.
You don't want when you have a low toilet and a high water line. You don't want your balls marinated.
No dipping.
So you have to
you don't want to dunk the donuts.
You got to play Jenga.
You have to manipulate.
Batwing them.
Is that what I have to look forward to?
Yes.
Do I have small balls, guys?
Yes.
I don't know. I've never seen them personally.
No, you guys know. Tell me.
Well, when it gets warmer, they kind of drop down.
I know.
You know, when you have a shallow toilet. You know,
I don't think I've ever had them hit the water line.
One of the concerns, yes. I think I could have sworn that I mentioned to you guys before that my ex-father-in-law.
Oh, we don't listen to you.
One of his biggest concerns when they built their home behind me and my ex-wife, and one of the things he was delighted by is that he had these new toilets that sit up really high and the water line's really low, so my balls don't sit in the water when I'm taking a poop. Or that I don't have to hold them up while I'm taking a poop so that they're not in the water.
Interesting.
Yeah, you don't want to shit on your own balls.
Well,
I mean,
yes,
you could have a turd knocking into them.
I agree.
He doesn't know what to do with any of this. It's like
that's Ryan.
I don't even have a comeback here. I'm not. What are these fuckers talking about?
Yeah, that's Ryan.
Well, I think that about wraps things up for us this evening. Thank you all very much for tuning in and listening. We will chat at you next week with our Halloween episode.
Oh, I do have to say,
yes.
At the very, very, very end of the episode where I finally came back after EMT school, you put on a musics. I don't like musics.
Return.
I love Mark Morrison though. That was fucking amazing. Well done.
I love that he doesn't really enunciate the k sound at the end of that. Like, it's perfect. It's Return of the Mat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Glad you enjoyed that.
No, that song's amazing.
Is Ryan the only one that won bingo?
Yes.
I was only one off. I needed they go low, we go high, and I couldn't get it.
I'm the winner. I'm the winner.
Ryan is the winner.
If Giuliani had tagged
I was
in,
a non-combatant.
If Giuliani had tagged in, I could have won, and if Pence had dropped out mid-debate, I might have won.
Yeah, I could have won if America was canceled, but I didn't figure that out.
I lost bingo as soon as I got this card. There were too many things that just weren't going to happen.
Well, we all have the same things. I guess I got the lucky one that had the things that lined up.
Yeah.
Hillary was here's an interesting. Hillary was not going to browse drape swatches during the debate, but the fact that swatches came up,
it's close.
I mean, it's close, but it still wouldn't have.
I think the judges would disqualify that one.
Probably. Okay, sorry, you were closing out.
Yes. Yes.
Don't you know when I'm closing the show, guys?
Thank you all very much. Thank you very much for joining us this evening, Grant. I really appreciate you coming out.
Stay on your
next week we'll have a Halloween episode for y'all.
Yes.
And some other things that I have already
news
prepared.
And stuff that Matt has just been keeping over on the down low until we can talk about it.
Over on the down low.
Over on the down low.
On
the lower part of the table. I don't know. But we'll chat at y'all next week. Bye. Say bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Who was that again? The Everyone Loves Raymond guy.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Brad Garrett.
Brad Garrett. Sound like Brad Garrett. That's cool.
Yeah, a little bit, maybe.
I'll go with Brad Garrett.
You guys both fell for it.
That's a good one.
That's the only song that my butt grooves to. I was actually listening to that while I was playing Madden. And I got to the end and that song came on and I ran into the other room. I'm like, Danielle, I'm like, hey. I paused it. I'm like, so Dan put a song at the end of the show when I came back. And she's like, And I'm like, it was this one. And she's like, oh, you love that song. I was like, yeah, it's the best song.